Jessica, go ahead.
Good morning. Today is Thursday, July 20th, 2023. Commissioners Court is meeting in special open session. Would you please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Leon, would you like to make any opening comments before we begin?
Yes, thank you. Today, we may be losing a member of the court, and I know that Betsy has got to be gone at about 12 or so. So we're going to be taking, if it's okay with the court, some items that are out of order. We'd like to start with executive session, and items 8 and 9, 5 and 6, 4, 7, and 10. Is that correct? There we go. Okay, thank you.
Item number 3 is public comment. We do not have any speakers signed up for public comment. We'll take no action for item 3. And I also like to acknowledge our ASL interpreters today. We will have Stephanie Michelle, Selena Saloom, and James Garcia.
Good. And just a note real quick, the judge is not here because he is in D.C. representing us well. So, thank you.
We'd like to begin with item 11, executive session. Commissioners Court will recess into executive session to discuss items 11A and B pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071. Commissioners Court will reconvene to take official action.
For your children to stay current on all their routine vaccines. Also, children 5 and older are not eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. I I'm current on all my vaccines, and I also get the COVID vaccine so I and my loved ones can be protected. You and your kid should get the vaccine too, and if you've already gotten the vaccine, you should get your booster. For your child's routine vaccines, visit ephealth.com. We know how much you love your children, so remember, don't hesitate, vaccinate. Es importante que sus hijos tengan todas sus vacunas. Además de las vacunas rutinas, los niños mayores de 5 años ahora son elegibles para la vacuna de COVID-19. La vacuna COVID-19 es gratis. Para las vacunas rutinas de sus hijos, visite ephealth.com. Sabemos cuánto amas a tus hijos, así que recuerda, no lo dudes, vacúnate.
El Paso goes by many names. Sun City, 915. We are known for history, culture, food, and art. In the early 1900s, development and commerce in El Paso revolved around mining and trade. The nationally recognized mission trails are just one example of the many historic sites that portray our region's rich indigenous and colonial history. Since then, El Paso has evolved, and so has its people. We take great pride in nourishing a skilled and capable workforce, with 72% of our population being bilingual. We stay competitive among other large U.S. cities. The region's border location boasts a major trade port. It allows competitive local manufacturers to produce at maximum capacity. Fleet systems are capable of worldwide distribution of parts and products. Our state-of-the-art higher education systems are nationally recognized. The Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center El Paso, the nation's first comprehensive health sciences institution on the U.S.-Mexico border, provides students the opportunities to become doctors, nurses, and researchers. The University of Texas at El Paso offers 74 bachelor's, 74 master's, and 22 doctoral programs. Local government agencies and other economic development organizations help industries become established and expand in our community. The County of El Paso is great for business, but we also keep true to our southern hospitality with plenty of outdoor recreation options. It's easy to keep active in El Paso. We are constantly looking for new industries interested in expansion. We want to offer our help and support in the process. No matter the name, El Paso is proud, strong, progressive. We are El Paso. Come see what we can do together.
today we celebrate one of my favorite projects, which is First Time Water. So thank you for coming and joining us for this wonderful event.
Well, this is, first time water, and you can imagine any first time anything, and I'm glad the community gets to see this because, we live very blessed, and sometimes some of the areas require some of the basic needs. So very excited about this, especially the network that it took with the county and Congresswoman Escobar, the Net Bank, everybody that participated, and to give people an opportunity to live the way they should live is just exciting.
1, 2, 3.
This is very exciting. This is really the first time that Hillcrest Center, which is a community about a half a mile from the city limits off of Montana, that is finally going to receive water. The plotting was approved, believe it or not, back by the court in 1950. So we're talking about 150 homes, 309 people that live out there. As we move forward, this is something that I've pushed for, that the folks out there receive as many of the amenities that they deserve.
I am so happy for all of the families who are finally going to, but not today, but very soon be able to turn on their faucets and receive water. That is the dignity that each person in our country deserves, and I'm very proud that the Biden administration and Congress was able to deliver that.
That's the goal of the county. Our lane is accessibility to everything, transportation, health care, and of course water and sewage like everyone should have.
Well, today we're celebrating Earth Day, so we have lots of festivities, lots of activities for families, things for the children to do, and we also have completed a major tree planting project to bring some more shade and tree diversity here to Escalante Park.
And so we brought our families, we brought our coworkers. This event is amazing. There's a lot of local vendors, there's a lot of community attendance. It's fun.
So we want to create awareness and education for the community to continue to respect and care and great stewardship of the earth. We chose Escalante Park because we've recently done tree planting events in the past. There's definitely a need for an increase of vegetation here, and trees are the best way to provide shade and combat the urban heat island effect.
Well, we've got different crafts and activities, setting up the pavilion so that it's a fun place to go to. We have movies that represent what's going on to help protect the environment.
I would hope we are able to do this multiple years. This is fantastic. This is great for Mother Earth. It's great for the kids to come out and participate and learn about taking care of the planet and being sustainable.
It's the one day where I think we bring awareness to, we share something no matter our political backgrounds or religious beliefs. The earth is one thing we share in common. We all breathe the same air, we share the same water, so we can love and take care of the earth together.
So like many rural communities, here in Tornillo, most neighborhoods do not have sidewalks. And unfortunately, that can cause a safety hazard. So when kids are walking to school, they don't have sidewalks to walk on. If there's a heavy rain, there's no sidewalk for the kids to be able to walk through, and they end up having to walk through muddy streets to get to school.
Definitely, I grew up here. And, for many, many decades, Tornillo has really needed sidewalks. And when this project came along, we were so excited that we were identified as one of the entities that was going to be receiving these sidewalks.
At the county, we've been extraordinarily blessed that we've been able to obtain funding for various projects for the community out here in Tornillo. The funding allowed us to provide a little over 3 miles worth of sidewalks here in Tornillo, and to focus in the areas that, for example, children travel the most. So I think we're going to have some folklorical dancers. The cheerleading team is going to be out here, and it's just really great to see the kids out here celebrating with us.
So now these sidewalks are now being connected to the schools. It has really put us as administrators at ease, because now we know that there's at least one area where our kids can be safe. Like I said, we could not have done this without the great partnerships from our county commissioner, and definitely TxDOT and everybody who's involved in these projects.
And so the county is doing all that we can to try to get as much funding as possible so that we can bring those services to the outer rural areas of the county. We don't think that any one neighborhood should have less accessibility to services than another neighborhood just because of where it's located.
For your children to stay current on all their routine vaccines. Also, children 5 and older are now eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. I am current on all my vaccines, and I also get the COVID vaccine so I and my loved ones can be protected. You and your kids should get the vaccine too, and if you've already gotten the vaccine, you should get your booster. For your child's routine vaccines, visit ephealth.com. We know how much you love your children, so remember, don't hesitate, vaccinate. Es importante que sus hijos tengan todas sus vacunas. Además de las vacunas rutinas, los niños mayores de 5 años ahora son elegibles para la vacuna de COVID-19. La vacuna COVID-19 es gratis. Para las vacunas rutinas de sus hijos, visite ephealth.com. Sabemos cuánto amas a tus hijos, así que recuerda, no lo dudes, vacúnate.
El Paso goes by many names. Sun City, 915. We are known for history, culture, food, and art. In the early 1900s, development and commerce in El Paso revolved around mining and trade. The nationally recognized mission trails are just one example of the many historic sites that portray our region's rich indigenous and colonial history. Since then, El Paso has evolved, and so has its people. We take great pride in nourishing a skilled and capable workforce, with 72% of our population being bilingual. We stay competitive among other large U.S. cities. The region's border location boasts a major trade port. It allows competitive local manufacturers to produce at maximum capacity. Fleet systems are capable of worldwide distribution of parts and products. Our state-of-the-art higher education systems are nationally recognized. The Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center El Paso, the nation's first comprehensive health sciences institution on the U.S.-Mexico border, provides students the opportunities to become doctors, nurses, and researchers. The University of Texas at El Paso offers 74 bachelor's, 74 master's, and 22 doctoral programs. Local government agencies and other economic development organizations help industries become established and expand in our community. The County of El Paso is great for business, but we also keep true to our southern hospitality with plenty of outdoor recreation options. It's easy to keep active in El Paso. We are constantly looking for new industries interested in expansion. We want to offer our help and support in the process. No matter the name, El Paso is proud, strong, progressive. We are El Paso. Come see what we can do together.
today we celebrate one of my favorite projects, which is First Time Water. So thank you for coming and joining us for this wonderful event.
Well, this is, first time water, and you can imagine any first time anything, and I'm glad the community gets to see this because, we live very blessed, and sometimes some of the areas require some of the basic needs. So very excited about this, especially the network that it took with the county and Congresswoman Escobar, the Net Bank, everybody that participated, and to give people an opportunity to live the way they should live is just exciting.
1, 2, 3.
This is very exciting. This is really the first time that Hillcrest Center, which is a community about a half a mile from the city limits off of Montana, that is finally going to receive water. The plotting was approved, believe it or not, back by the court in 1950. So we're talking about 150 homes, 309 people that live out there. As we move forward, this is something that I've pushed for, that the folks out there receive as many of the amenities that they deserve.
I am so happy for all of the families who are finally going to, but not today, but very soon be able to turn on their faucets and receive water. That is the dignity that each person in our country deserves, and I'm very proud that the Biden administration and Congress was able to deliver that.
That's the goal of the county. Our lane is accessibility to everything, transportation, health care, and of course water and sewage like everyone should have.
Well, today we're celebrating Earth Day, so we have lots of festivities, lots of activities for families, things for the children to do, and we also have completed a major tree planting project to bring some more shade and tree diversity here to Escalante Park.
And so we brought our families, we brought our co-workers. This event is amazing. There's a lot of local vendors, there's a lot of community attendance. It's fun.
So we want to create awareness and education for the community to continue to respect and care and great stewardship of the earth. We chose Escalante Park because we've recently done tree planting events in the past. There's definitely a need for an increase of vegetation here, and trees are the best way to provide shade and combat the urban heat island effect.
Well, we've got different crafts and activities, setting up the pavilion so that it's a fun place to go to. We have movies that represent what's going on to help protect the environment.
I would hope we are able to do this multiple years. This is fantastic. This is great for Mother Earth. It's great for the kids to come out and participate and learn about taking care of the planet and being sustainable.
It's a one day where I think we bring awareness to, we share something no matter our political backgrounds or religious beliefs. The earth is one thing we share in common. We all breathe the same air, we share the same water, so we can love and take care of the earth together.
So like many rural communities, here in Tornillo, most neighborhoods do not have sidewalks. And unfortunately, that can cause a safety hazard. So when kids are walking to school, they don't have sidewalks to walk on. If there's a heavy rain, there's no sidewalk for the kids to be able to walk through, and they end up having to walk through muddy streets to get to school.
Definitely, I grew up here. And, for many, many decades, Tornillo has really needed sidewalks. And when this project came along, we were so excited that we were identified as one of the entities that was going to be receiving these sidewalks.
At the county, we've been extraordinarily blessed that we've been able to obtain funding for various projects for the community out here in Tornillo. So the funding allowed us to provide a little over 3 miles worth of sidewalks here in Tornillo, and to focus in the areas that, for example, children travel the most. So I think we're going to have some folklorical dancers. The cheerleading team is going to be out here, and it's just really great to see the kids out here celebrating with us.
So now these sidewalks are now being connected to the schools. It has really put us as administrators at ease, because now we know that there's at least one area where our kids can be safe. Like I said, we could not have done this without the great partnerships from our county commissioner, and definitely TxDOT and everybody who's involved in these projects.
And so the county is doing all that we can to try to get as much funding as possible so that we can bring those services to the outer rural areas of the county. We don't think that any one neighborhood should have less accessibility to services than another neighborhood just because of where it's located.
For your children to stay current on all their routine vaccines. Also, children 5 and older are now eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. I'm current on all my vaccines, and I also get the COVID vaccine so I and my loved ones can be protected. You and your kids should get the vaccine too, and if you've already gotten the vaccine, you should get your booster. For your child's routine vaccines, visit ephealth.com. We know how much you love your children, so remember, don't hesitate, vaccinate. Es importante que sus hijos tengan todas sus vacunas. Además de las vacunas rutinas, los niños mayores de 5 años ahora son elegibles para la vacuna de COVID-19. La vacuna COVID-19 es gratis. Para las vacunas rutinas de sus hijos, visite ephealth.com. Sabemos cuánto amas a tus hijos, así que recuerda, no lo dudes, vacúnate.
El Paso goes by many names. Sun City, 915. We are known for history, culture, food, and art. In the early 1900s, development and commerce in El Paso revolved around mining and trade. The nationally recognized mission trails are just one example of the many historic sites that portray our region's rich indigenous and colonial history. Since then, El Paso has evolved, and so has its people. We take great pride in nourishing a skilled and capable workforce, with 72% of our population being bilingual. We stay competitive among other large U.S. cities. The region's border location boasts a major trade port. It allows competitive local manufacturers to produce at maximum capacity. Fleet systems are capable of worldwide distribution of parts and products.
Our state-of-the-art higher education systems are nationally recognized. The Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center El Paso, the nation's first comprehensive health sciences institution on the U.S.-Mexico border, provides students the opportunities to become doctors, nurses, and researchers. The University of Texas at El Paso offers 74 bachelor's, 74 master's, and 22 doctoral programs.
Local government agencies and other economic development organizations help industries become established and expand in our community. The County of El Paso is great for business, but we also keep true to our southern hospitality with plenty of outdoor recreation options. It's easy to keep active in El Paso. We are constantly looking for new industries interested in expansion. We want to offer our help and support in the process. No matter the name, El Paso is proud, strong, progressive. We are El Paso. Come see what we can do together.
Today we celebrate one of my favorite projects, which is First Time Water. So thank you for coming and joining us for this wonderful event.
Well, this is, first time water, and you can imagine any first time anything, and I'm glad the community gets to see this because, we live very blessed, and sometimes some of the areas require some of the basic needs. So very excited about this, especially the network that it took with the county and Congresswoman Escobar, the Net Bank, everybody that participated, and to give people an opportunity to live the way they should live is just exciting.
1, 2, 3.
This is very exciting. This is really the first time that Hillcrest Center, which is a community about a half a mile from the city limits off of Montana, that is finally going to receive water. The plotting was approved, believe it or not, back by the court in 1950. So we're talking about 150 homes, 309 people that live out there. As we move forward, this is something that I've pushed for, that the folks out there receive as many of the amenities that they deserve.
I am so happy for all of the families who are finally going to, not today, but very soon be able to turn on their faucets and receive water. That is the dignity that each person in our country deserves, and I'm very proud that the Biden administration and Congress was able to deliver that.
That's the goal of the county. Our lane is accessibility to everything, transportation, health care, and of course water and sewage like everyone should have.
Well, today we're celebrating Earth Day, so we have lots of festivities, lots of activities for families, things for the children to do, and we also have completed a major tree planting project to bring some more shade and tree diversity here to Escalante Park.
And so we brought our family, we brought our coworkers. This event is amazing. There's a lot of local vendors, there's a lot of community attendance. It's fun.
So we want to create awareness and education for the community to continue to respect and care and great stewardship of the earth. We chose Escalante Park because we've recently done tree planting events in the past. There's definitely a need for an increase of vegetation here, and trees are the best way to provide shade and combat the urban heat island effect.
Well, we've got different crafts and activities, setting up the pavilion so that it's a fun place to go to. We have movies that represent what's going on to help protect the environment.
I would hope we are able to do this multiple years. This is fantastic. This is great for Mother Earth. It's great for the kids to come out and participate and learn about taking care of the planet and being sustainable.
It's a one day where I think we bring awareness to. We share something, no matter our political backgrounds or religious beliefs. The earth is one thing we share in common. We all breathe the same air, we share the same water, so we can love and take care of the earth together.
So like many rural communities, here in Tornillo, most neighborhoods do not have sidewalks. And unfortunately, that can cause a safety hazard. So when kids are walking to school, they don't have sidewalks to walk on. If there's a heavy rain, there's no sidewalk for the kids to be able to walk through, and they end up having to walk through muddy streets to get to school.
Definitely, I grew up here. And, for many, many decades, Tornillo has really needed sidewalks, and when this project came along, we were so excited that we were identified as one of the entities that was going to be receiving these sidewalks.
At the county, we've been extraordinarily blessed that we've been able to obtain funding for various projects for the community out here in Tornillo. So the funding allowed us to provide a little over 3 miles worth of sidewalks here in Tornillo, and to focus in the areas that, for example, children travel the most. So I think we're going to have some folklorical dancers. The cheerleading team is going to be out here, and it's just really great to see the kids out here celebrating with us.
So now these sidewalks are now being connected to the schools. It has really put us as administrators at ease, because now we know that there's at least one area where our kids can be safe. Like I said, we could not have done this without the great partnerships from our county commissioner, and definitely TxDOT and everybody who's involved in these projects.
And so the county is doing all that we can to try to get as much funding as possible so that we can bring those services to the outer rural areas of the county. We don't think that any one neighborhood should have less accessibility to services than another neighborhood just because of where it's located.
For your children to stay current on all their routine vaccines. Also, children 5 and older are now eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. I am current on all my vaccines, and I also get the COVID vaccine so I and my loved ones can be protected. You and your kids should get the vaccine too, and if you've already gotten the vaccine, you should get your booster. For your child's routine vaccines, visit ephealth.com. We know how much you love your children, so remember, don't hesitate, vaccinate. Es importante que sus hijos tengan todas sus vacunas. Además de las vacunas rutinas, los niños mayores de 5 años ahora son elegibles para la vacuna de COVID-19. La vacuna COVID-19 es gratis. Para las vacunas rutinas de sus hijos, visite ephealth.com. Sabemos cuánto amas a tus hijos, así que recuerda, no lo dudes, vacúnate.
El Paso goes by many names. Sun City, 915. We are known for history, culture, food, and art. In the early 1900s, development and commerce in El Paso revolved around mining and trade. The nationally recognized mission trails are just one example of the many historic sites that portray our region's rich indigenous and colonial history. Since then, El Paso has evolved, and so has its people. We take great pride in nourishing a skilled and capable workforce, with 72% of our population being bilingual. We stay competitive among other large U.S. cities. The region's border location boasts a major trade port. It allows competitive local manufacturers to produce at maximum capacity. Fleet systems are capable of worldwide distribution of parts and products.
Our state-of-the-art higher education systems are nationally recognized. The Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center El Paso, the nation's first comprehensive health sciences institution on the U.S.-Mexico border, provides students the opportunities to become doctors, nurses, and researchers. The University of Texas at El Paso offers 74 bachelor's, 74 master's, and 22 doctoral programs.
Local government agencies and other economic development organizations help industries become established and expand in our community. The County of El Paso is great for business, but we also keep true to our southern hospitality with plenty of outdoor recreation options. It's easy to keep active in El Paso. We are constantly looking for new industries interested in expansion. We want to offer our help and support in the process. No matter the name, El Paso is proud, strong, progressive. We are El Paso. Come see what we can do together.
today we celebrate one of my favorite projects, which is First Time Water. So thank you for coming and joining us for this wonderful event.
Well, this is, first time water, and you can imagine any first time anything, and I'm glad the community gets to see this because, we live very blessed, and sometimes some of the areas require some of the basic needs. So very excited about this, especially the network that it took with the county and Congresswoman Escobar, the Net Bank, everybody that participated, and to give people an opportunity to live the way they should live is just exciting.
1, 2, 3.
This is very exciting. This is really the first time that Hillcrest Center, which is a community about a half a mile from the city limits off of Montana, that is finally going to receive water. The plotting was approved, believe it or not, back by the court in 1950. So we're talking about 150 homes, 309 people that live out there. As we move forward, this is something that I've pushed for, that the folks out there receive as many of the amenities that they deserve.
I am so happy for all of the families who are finally going to, not today, but very soon, be able to turn on their faucets and receive water. That is the dignity that each person in our country deserves, and I'm very proud that the Biden administration and Congress was able to deliver that.
Miguel, are you
Jessica,
ready?
go ahead.
Commissioners Court has reconvened to special open session. Item number 8, budget hearing. Receive a presentation and provide feedback on county health and dental plan, county programs, liability insurance, employee relations, salary information, consumer price index, minimum wage, staffing, and budget updates for fiscal year 2024.
Hey, good morning, Sam. I think that's the first time I've ever seen that. A seat at the podium.
I was thinking they were lowering it because I'm short, so I thought, so they can stop now. We'll try it out. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Sam Trujillo, I'm the Senior Deputy Human Resource Officer with the Human Resources Department. Each year during the budget hearing presentations, our department presents information on a variety of items, from the benefits to employee relations to wages. For our first section of our presentation today, we'd like to share information on new programs or continuing programs of specific interests by the Commissioners Court, and we will provide updates to the court on the county's projected medical plan premiums and our county's liability insurance coverages for the following fiscal year. This year, we'd also like to provide the court with updated information on the county's education assistance program and also on the county's van pool program. Our first item will be the medical plan presented by Berenice Acosta, who is our HR benefits manager, and that will be followed by our programs and liability insurance coverages, which will be presented by Joanna Faldoa, which is our HR Senior Generalist with the Human Resources Department. First up, I'd like to call Berenice Acosta.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Berenice Acosta with the Human Resources Department. Okay. So before you are the recommended continuations as presented to you during the special meeting in March and the regular meeting in June. The first one is the continuation of the 3 network plans, the continuation of the current tier system of employee only, employee and spouse, employee and children, and employee and family, continuation of the medical premium discount incentives, and the wellness budget and wellness coordinator position. Next, we have the list of goals for budget plan year 2024, which were also presented to you during the special meeting in March and the regular meeting in June. These goals, of course, are dependent on the risk pool reserve funding being at a healthy level. The first one is to keep the county contribution and employee premium contribution at 2%, which would be an approximate $650,000 annual impact. Continue the reimbursement to the general fund from past infusions and quarterly installments. Of course, this would be dependent on the health of the risk pool fund prior to the transfer.
And can I ask you just really quickly, how much is left to reimburse?
We've done our first 1 million out of the 3.5 million past infusions. Last month, we did the first request to transfer from the risk fund to the general fund of $1 million.
So we still have 1.5, no, 2.5.
2.5, yes, ma'am. And we are hoping that by the end of next year, we'll be able to pay off those 2.5 million. Next is to decrease the premiums for the ACO and UMC network plans as an incentive for employees who elect these plans, which is the cost savings to the employee and to the county. The annual impact would be a decrease of $463,000 in employee premiums, and it will also result in lower health plan costs due to the discounted rates provided in these plans. There are no change in premiums for the dental plan. We are looking at increase of the county HSA contribution from $600 to $1,200. This results in an approximate annual budget impact of $1.3 million. And lastly, decrease dependent tier systems, including the family tier. And this is about by 8%, which will have an approximate additional annual impact of $500,000. These goals will have a net budget impact of $1 million for fiscal year 24.
That's one increase?
Correct.
How much did you say?
1 million.
1 million?
Mm-hmm. And this...
Berenice, I'm sorry,
yes,
before you continue, this is already in our proposed budget that we're preparing, this impact.
This does conclude my portion of the presentation. Sorry, it went way too many. I'll go ahead and hand over the presentation to our HR Senior Generalist, Joanna Falda.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Judge and Commissioners. Joanna Fada with the Human Resources Department. For the record, I will be going over the program updates and the liability insurance estimated costs. First is our Educational Assistance Program. Over the years, the court has placed a high value on education for county employees and has provided funding for an education assistance program. This program provides educational tuition reimbursement based on availability of funds to county employees for the payment of eligible tuition expenses incurred by an employee for their education. The table before you illustrates the utilization of this program throughout the years. So far this year, we have reimbursed a little under $34,000, leaving $26,000 for the remainder of the calendar year. As a result, we foresee the amount exceeding 2022 reimbursement amounts, which is a positive trend as more employees are seeking additional education. Also, staff recently conducted contract negotiations with Park University, who will be joining the other educational institutions such as University of Phoenix, Trident University, and Grand Canyon, who have contracted with the county and provide discounts on tuition to employees. Staff continues to market and educate our employees on this program to ensure employees take advantage of this benefit. During our annual review, which included an effort to seek employees' experience with the program, staff reached out to participants and obtained testimonials, which have been posted on HR's internet page as illustrated on this slide. The annual budget amount for this program is $60,000, and we are not requesting any changes to the funding for fiscal year 24. Next, I will review the county's van pool program. A quick overview, the county offers its employees a carpool program called Vámonos Van Pool and the program allows a group of 4 to 15 coworkers who live near one another to form a van pool and commute to work. As a matter of information, by utilizing the van pool program, employees would save on gas, car maintenance, parking, and other expenses. The program initiated 4 years ago when the court approved a subsidy in the amount of $20,160 during the fiscal year 20 budget hearings. But the subsidy was removed for fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22. However, during the fiscal year 23 budget hearings, Commissioners Court approved to subsidize 100% of the participation program fee for a maximum of 20 employees. Prior to subsidizing the 100% of the participation fee, Commute with Enterprise required a separate agreement with the county. As a result, a separate agreement was developed and approved. Since the 100% subsidy has not had a full year's worth of marketing, training, and implementation, staff is recommending a continuation of the program and recommending carrying over the $46,080 annual subsidy to allow employees more time to join the program with the financial incentive if all 20 employees participate.
And this is the program that hasn't had any participation historically, correct? And so we were going to give it one more chance to see how it went, but that didn't actually happen.
Well, due to us not having been able to market it this past year, we haven't been able to have participants. But now that the agreement is approved, we want to try and give it another go.
So we're going to give it one last chance? Was that it?
Yes.
Well, we never, just to be clear, we never gave it the one last chance because we did not tell employees that here is 100% funded program for you because we were working on this contract amendment, which the court just approved this past Monday. And so now that we have the contract amendment, we can advertise it, but it took us a period of time to get the contract amended.
And I remember the conversation. Matter of fact, it was with you.
Yes.
It's just one more chance. So it's up to the court. If you all feel that by marketing a little bit better, I'm at the whim of the court because I was the one that was really pushing for that. Whatever you all think, if you want to give it one last push where marketing may help, it's up to you all.
And I'm happy to give it one more chance, but I think really it should be one more chance.
Yes.
Second last chance.
Yes, definitely.
I'm good with it.
I'm okay with it. I think, if we can try and get the participation, I'm all for it. And I think as a community, as we go, we really start thinking about how we're going to encourage people countywide and even in the city to take advantage of things like these because, other cities have a better, participation, counties. We don't, but, part of the issue is the way we're stretched out so far out. And, one of the other things we need to do is, I don't know, maybe work with the city as well. We need to talk to them about, how do we help them increase their participation with their employees about these other issues. But, even just the busing at the city, I don't think it's their participation that it should be, but that's because we are everybody loves their cars here, and we're stretched out. But one of the issues is that we need to make it more, attractive to them.
Well, and that's exactly why we went to the 100% subsidy.
Yeah.
I think before we were only subsidizing it, 50% or something.
And I
so
agree.
we went to the 100% because we thought, okay, let's make it as attractive as possible.
Yeah. And I think with the city side, this is a tight side issue, but encourage them to have maybe smaller buses or where they run more often, then there might be more participation that way in our entire, transportation alternatives to vehicles.
Yeah.
So
this is a great program. I'm just very surprised.
And we will give it our all to market it. One more. Lastly, I will be going over liability insurance coverages. Each year, the Human Resources Department reviews existing liability insurance policies and evaluates potential new insurances. Based on our review, the county's insurance broker, USI, provides the county with liability insurance cost estimates for premiums on the respective insurances after negotiations with insurance carriers within 60 days of the coverage dates. Most insurers are reluctant to quote prices any longer than 60 days. Before you is the estimated premium cost provided by the insurance broker for insurance coverages recommended for fiscal year '24. These coverages are consistent with what the county acquired last year, with the exception of cyber insurance. Cyber insurance was not acquired last year due to the safeguards that needed to be implemented. However, the safeguards have now been implemented, which makes us eligible to acquire cyber insurance for fiscal year '24. Property insurance represents the largest percentage increase in premiums at 50%. This is due to the high number of property damage claims made throughout the country and an increase in the overall property insurance market. Total estimated cost is at $594,161, which represents a $183,549,000 budget increase for fiscal year '24. This concludes my portion of the presentation. I can now hand it over to Ms. Minnie Holguin, our Chief Human Resources Officer.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Minnie Holguin, Human Resources. So these next two slides, while I know in the past they've been included in the budget presentations, what we'd like to do is show you the information, but really we'd like to come back and give you an overview of employee relations, what this data means for both separation reasons as well as the turnover rate. So what I'd like to do is come back to you all and really go into depth what the data means and what we're doing about it, and give you a sneak peek into some of the initiatives that we're looking at for FY24. So I'm not going to spend too much time on these two slides because I'd like to come back with a few more details. Unemployment cost, really theoretically, the more turnover we have, the more unemployment claims we receive, and the higher our contribution rate. And this slide just shows you where we have been in the past and where we currently are. Oops. And the accountability policy, which we covered in the last Commissioners Court, also we continue to have no updates as of today regarding the accountability policy, so we don't have anything to discuss during executive session. That's all I have. I'll turn it over to our classification and compensation team. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I know the chair's new, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, makes it more comfortable.
I don't have to worry about standing up and passing out or something. At least I won't have far to go. So for the record, Elsie West, Human Resources. So I'd like to go ahead and just start off with a little bit of information here on salary. As mentioned in the May presentation, as the county continues to grow, the department's personnel needs also continue to change and grow. In the next slides, we will be providing information on minimum wage, consumer price index, steps and COLAs, and a brief summary of the elected official salaries. At this point, we have received initial impacts from budget. Any items requiring funds are all dependent on revenue projections and budget numbers. Each year, our office monitor, oh, did I jump too many? I won't touch the clicker. Each year, our office monitors the consumer price index for all urban consumers to better track economic conditions. Historically, the court has used this index score at the end of June as a gauge for employee cost of living adjustments when finances allow. At this time, we're looking at a 3% CPI. The chief administrator is discussing this and a proposed COLA for each of you with each of you individually, and we will bring back options during the budget hearings next month. One of the objectives you focused on over the past several years is increasing our minimum wage to reach a target of $15 an hour. The information on this screen shows how we may get there over time. Given this year's budget constraints, the $15 minimum wage could continue to be phased in. In the next slides, we will be providing a brief summary of the elected officials' salaries. In FY20, the court took action to move our elected officials' salaries to an 80% model of the average salaries of the most populous counties in the state. Prior to this action, our elected official pay scale lagged the market. This slide summarizes elected officials' current salary in comparison to the base salaries of the 9 most populous Texas counties minus Harris County. In addition, it shows the internal wage compression within the offices of our county's elected officials. This is the percentage between the elected and the next highest paid employee in the department. In prior years, approved pay increases have been given to keep elected officials' salary at a minimum of 80% of other counties' averages, to provide a cost of living stability and to keep the internal compression to a minimum. Salary increases to elected officials, similar to the amounts given to employees, are recommended to continue these practices. At this time, for FY24, we will recommend the equivalent across-the-board increase to elected officials that is given to employees. This next slide will cover the FY 2024 staffing request under review. Our county departments have significant resource needs to keep up with service level expectations. However, we are also very conscientious of the available funding and the court's responsibility to be as fiscally responsible as possible. Slide, sorry. HR collaborates with departments to prioritize staffing requests, which helps us to understand and monitor short-term and long-term needs. So far, we have classified the personnel request into these 3 categories. Each tier is cumulative, so Tier 1B includes all of Tier 1A. Tier 1A includes Priority 1A new staffing requests plus auto allowances, 1A position transfers from other funding sources to general fund, status changes like part-time to full-time, a temp pool, and supplements. With the lower projected growth in revenue, it may be likely we will only be able to fill Tier 1A with an effective date of January, provided revenue is balanced and reconciled. This would be a budget impact of $2 million. However, we would like to request that $5 million be set aside to cover the cost for 1A through 1C request. In December, HR would come back to Commissioners Court for an approval of staffing request once we have been provided funds from budget and auditors. We will be notifying the departments of our current recommendations. I would like to thank our budget department for providing the various budget impacts. This slide is just showing the FY24 initial staffing request. The requests are still being analyzed, and while the needs are valid, unfortunately, the funds to support all the staffing requests would require significant revenues. In this bar graph, we have categorized the types of initial staffing requests. For FY24, we have 146 requests for new positions. While this is less than last year, it is still a significant increase from prior years. The 10 reduction in force positions are really not a reduction in force because they are revenue-based and no one was actually reduced in force. Those positions have been vacant, and so I'll explain what they were. There were 9 that were due to the ending of the UMC contract, and 1 was due to a vacancy at the county clerk's office that was out of special revenue. So please know that these fund-saving dollars are not true savings to the impact for our budget. The budget impact for all these requests would total $18 million. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, and Commissioner Holguin, you're looking at me like you might have some questions.
Actually, I did have a question. If we could go back to that slide. So like the auto allowance, is that only for the 146 new requested positions, or that's all auto allowances?
The amount of the 24 is an increase, so some of those are new positions, but that's actual increase. Auto allowances are tallied, are actually more, but this is an increase from last year's budget. So what we're providing here is increases from the prior years. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
from the prior budget.
So is 53 additional employees that will come into the program?
So that they have submitted a request.
Oh,
Or,
okay.
so
The
there's,
department submitted a request, so HR is analyzing, not all of these will be either, like if you only drive 10 miles a month, the policy doesn't cover a minimal. So they'll be analyzing, does it meet the requirements? Is it necessary? Is there no vehicle available that they could use instead of using their personal vehicle? That's what HR should be analyzing now.
Okay. So it's 53 requests for auto allowances.
correct. There could be increases maybe from the prior year. They're saying they drove a lot more miles, so they're asking for a request to change that mileage.
Okay. Thank you.
Position transfers are usually positions that are currently funded by a grant source or a special revenue source that is being depleted, and they're asking that those be moved to general fund. That's also another important one to make note of. Even though it's less number of positions, the value and cost of that request is more significant than, for example, the auto allowance. It looks lower because it's the graph is based on number, not value.
And these were initial. Once we've gone through them, a lot of these numbers have already started to change. This is initial when what we received. We analyzed, and there's going to be changes to these when we bring it back to you in December. You'll see some of those numbers have changed. Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 9, budget hearing. Receive a presentation regarding various financial and budget information for consideration in the fiscal year 2024 budget.
Morning.
Have a seat.
Thank you. This actually is much more relaxing. Jessica Garza, Budget and Fiscal Policy Department. Betsy, did you want to open?
Okay, thank you, Jessica. Good morning, good morning, Commissioners. We are making another presentation on our FY 2024 budget. As you know, our team has been working diligently over, basically as soon as the last budget ended, we started on this year's budget, or this coming fiscal year's budget. And Jessica and the team have been working diligently and closely with both Human Resources and the Auditor's Office to try to align in accordance with your strategic plan, to align both revenue and expenses. But the other thing I want to mention too is budget is always, we always talk about the dollar amount and the numbers, but we always also try to remember it's really about more than the dollars and the accounting of it. It's about the services we're delivering to our people. And so as we've gone through this, we've tried to incorporate everything that the court has shared with us that they're interested in us doing. But with our budget constraints right now, we have a significant amount of federal inmates that are not being housed in the prison, in the jail. We have increases in cost that we're projecting for employee cost, for the increased number of state inmates that we're holding. All of those factors are things that we're incorporating. Also, the movement of some things from our M&O to our INS rate, things that the court has acted on all year long, we've been trying to incorporate into this proposed budget. So today, Jessica's going to give an update where we are. We'll actually be bringing back, and not asking for action today, but this will all be part of your budget hearings next month. With that, I'll turn it back over to Jessica.
Thank you, Betsy. Over the past several months, you've heard various budget-related presentations, as well as financial and budget updates in preparation for the upcoming budget hearings. From these earlier presentations, the direction you've provided has been included in the fiscal year 2024 budget. Today, we will provide updates as well as some additional information on those impacts. You will also hear recommendations on pending items for discussion as you prepare to make final decisions for the fiscal year 2024 operating budgets. Today's presentation will include an update since our June presentation of the FY24 general fund budget. Revenue and fund balance estimates in the presentation are based on the auditor's report for the month ending June 2023. We will also review where we are at currently in building the 2024 budget based on department submissions, budget recommendations for operating, personnel, and capital expenses, and based on the direction the court has provided. For FY 2024, as of the July report for month ending June, the auditor is projecting revenues at $360.7 million, which is an increase of $7.2 million over the FY 23 budgeted revenue. His current projection of revenue is an increase of $2.2 million from his May estimate. The next update to revenue and fund balance is expected just before our final budget hearings. The three revenue areas we continue to watch closely and will likely change are property taxes, sales tax, and charges for services.
And you say will likely change for the positive side?
I will reserve that response for Mr. Dion. We always hope that they will be positive, but we have seen some unusual fluctuations. So I know like sales tax in May was actually a negative number of growth. Then June kind of popped back up. So we're hoping that we'll continue to see it stay up. This slide illustrates the projected revenues from the various general fund sources. The FY24 revenue projection from the auditor at $360.7 million, and again is $7.7 million higher than the projected FY23 end of year. Our largest source of revenue comes from property taxes, 60%, which is estimated at $216.7 million in FY24. That amount includes the amount that he has calculated for the new growth in our property valuations. In the June 30th CAD update, the estimated taxable value was $62.8 billion, with $13.7 billion still under ARB review. The final certified values are expected at the end of July. Revenue from property tax is calculated at this point in time based on the property value as of June 30th using the current M&O rate. In previous tax rate models, the M&O rate is planned to decrease due to the truth in taxation process and the state law restricting tax growth. The final tax rate calculations are expected at the end of July with the presentation to the court on August 7th. Commissioner Leon, that $13.7 billion that's still under ARB review historically does come down and translates into an increased taxable value, but the inverse reaction is that it will push our tax rate further down, our M&O tax rate further down. Revenue from property taxes is our largest source of income for the general fund. You will receive an update. Oh, I already said this. Sorry. The CAD will present on their valuations, methodology, and expectations for next year and how it will impact our future year budgets on August 7th. This slide provides the most recent valuations provided from June 30th, which is not yet certified. And it illustrates the changes in property values during and after the budget adoption process. The last two columns show the percentage and change in valuation from certified to actual and the change from prior year. In the last 5 years, the change in values from certified to actual has grown an average of 1.86%, and the average change in taxable value from the prior year is 4.28%. If the average change in certified to actual values hold, we could see values billed in October rise by $1 billion higher, approximating an additional $4 million in revenue, depending on the final tax rate adopted. Comparing certified to current values, the change is 7 billion, but as noted on this prior slide, values certified may differ from values actually billed. This is the reasoning behind comparing new certified value to the current tax roll value so as not to overestimate new revenue to be gained. Again, if the value holds through the billing date, we could anticipate revenues to increase. New construction has usually been in the range of 750 million. Last year, new construction was at 1.3 billion. This year's new construction amount is 1.45 billion. Our revenue estimate on another slide included in the estimates for the average increase to certified values and the average increases over the prior year.
Before you move on for that, I know Commissioner Olguin, you had specifically asked about that. So on that slide, if you'll go back, and you may have just mentioned this, but so new construction, which of course will be new revenue. Right now, it's estimated that provides 4.8 million in new revenue based on our current rate. So our current rate will likely go down. So it won't end up being 4.8 million in new revenue. It'll actually be less because the current rate will go down by the no new revenue rate tax calculation requirements. So every 1 cent, she added this in there, every 1 cent of the rate that gets reduced, it's a $145,000 reduction from new construction. And I think it's going to be at least 3 cents lower, most likely.
Okay. Betsy.
But that'll still probably be about 4 million in new construction, then, we think?
I think right now we're looking between 4 and 5.
Okay.
And I think Mr. Dion has calculated 5 million in the estimate that he's given us. So of the 360 he's projecting, 5 million is that new revenue amount. Mr. Dion has provided us with updated revenues and fund balance. The updated fund balance projection is shown here, and he's projecting fund balance to be approximately 98 million on September 30th of 23. Our office continues to review current departmental budgets and anticipated spending through the end of the year, and will collaborate with the auditor's office so that they may provide the most accurate fund balance possible for consideration in the budget adoption process. The difference at this time to achieve a 10% reserve is 23.3 million. This is the amount of the gap we are trying to reconcile between now and budget hearings. This is a summary of the FY24 all funds budget. Total all funds presented totals 564.4 million. The appropriated unallocated reserves is based on revenue estimates as of June, less proposed expenses. By fund, you will see that the general fund makes up the majority of our budget and covers the main portion of our day-to-day operations and totaled over 452.9 million. Special revenue funds are those fees that are statutorily set and may only be used for a specific purpose, such as our road and bridge accounts. The debt service account is where we make our bond and loan payments from, and that source of revenue is our INS rate. Capital projects funds, which includes 2 cents from M&O, and lastly, the enterprise fund for our water and sewer programs. We are recommending that we continue to budget our unallocated reserves at 90% throughout the budget for all funds. This will allow us to address unanticipated emergencies in any of our fund areas should they arise during the year. Our preliminary numbers estimate reserves, and our goal of 10% is 39.4 million. The 10.5 million currently illustrated on this slide is the estimate, and we'll cover more about the capital fund for projects in later slides. This slide provides a summary of the FY24 budget by spending categories: personnel, operating, and capital. Operating transfer out includes the annual CIP contribution, which we currently estimate to be 12 million. Capital includes the expenses built into department budgets, such as parks, mobility, and stormwater. We are currently estimating our reserve at 4.46%. And a reminder, our goal from an earlier slide, there's a difference of $23.3 million that we're trying to make up. Later slides will provide more details on what is driving next year's budget. And as a reminder, these numbers will continue to change prior to budget hearings and prior to adoption. Here you see an overview of our total budget by major categories, again being personnel, operating, and capital. This graph shows the FY22 actuals, the current FY23 budget, and the proposed FY24 budget. The most significant difference in each new budget year is the fact that we don't include the grants in our budget calculations. Funding is not recognized until we receive them, which is usually always after the budget is adopted. You will notice that the personnel costs have increased from FY23 slightly, and operating costs have been kept level. The FY23 amount there includes $4 million in new positions that was approved by the court, as well as steps and COLAs. The capital amounts shown include the annual capital expense budgets and actuals within the departments. The annual CIP for 24 has not yet been calculated as a transfer out from operating. This will decrease the operating column and increase capital by approximately $12 million. This chart gives you an overview of the FY23 adopted budget and the FY24 preliminary anticipated revenues as of 6/30 in the general fund, along with the reconciliation of the budget and remaining funds available. Looking at the FY23 adopted budget column, our preliminary fund balance calculations just below expenditures totaled $23 million. You'll see that kind of midway down. Or 6.8% for reserves. Our estimated fund balance a year ago was $92.76 million. The next column provides you with an update to the adopted budget with the actual beginning fund balance, which was $115.8 million, and a reserve amount of 11.55%, which was within our 10 to 15% target as set during our hearings. Moving to the next column, which is the information your budget book will be based on, our beginning balance or estimated fund balance at the time we did this was $96.1 million, and Mr. Dion has updated that to $98 million, or 4.7 more than the FY23 estimated. Our preliminary emergency 90% reserve is estimated at approximately $14 million, and our 10% unappropriated reserve is $1.6 million. This amount is approximately 7.72% of total FY24 expenditures for reserves, lower than the reserve percentage for the 23 budget. So from this chart, you can see the difference from projected and then what actual comes in. So at the time we adopted the budget, again, the fund balance was being projected at $92.7 million, and once the year closed out, it increased to $115 million. So we anticipate that same trend will follow this year. Our preference would be to finish the FY24 budget with at least 8% budgeted in reserves, a little below the 10 to 15% goal adopted by the court. 3.72% is a cautious area for reserve position for the upcoming fiscal year based on historical fund balance actuals. The fourth column includes the budget's estimates of fund balance and revenues based on historical average variances we've discussed in earlier meetings. These variances increase the fund balance estimate by $4 million and revenues by 3%. And so this is how we've taken those variances that we've presented over the last few months, applied it to the estimates given by Mr. Dion, and projected what that ending fund balance would be. We also expect additional expenses from the general fund, excuse me, to be reimbursed by FEMA and ARPA to contribute to the final fund balance. We also know that there are $9 million from the Economic Impact Fund that will most likely not be spent, and our average annual savings due to vacancies is about 5%. This does not include the $2.5 million from risk pool that is anticipated to be reimbursed, because we don't expect all of the 2.5 to come in unless things change in the risk pool area.
So Jessica, what you're saying is, with you just mentioned that 8.05% will probably come up a little bit?
Well, 8.5 is what we're targeting, at least to be within the prior year range. We're currently sitting closer to 4%.
So that we're hoping will come up. We're
That we're
counting on that number coming up.
From 4 to 805?
To 8.
And I am discussing this with you in my one-on-one meetings with you all. So this slide is a really good capture. As Jessica mentioned, if you look at the first two columns and you go down, our reserve is made up of two accounts, if you will. The first one that has a plus in front of it that says, in the middle, appropriated fund balance reserves. And then the next one that says unappropriated fund balance reserves. And you will see that when we adopted budget, we were expecting unappropriated to be 2.5 million, but it ended up being 25 million. And so we went from having a adopted budget of 6% reserves up to 11.5%. And this year, right now, we're at 3.72. We're trying to get to 8.5 before budget is adopted so that we bring you a proposed budget with 8.05. But what might happen is it might end up in that unappropriated. Your policy right now is to have 90% appropriated, but we may need to look at our policy to take into consideration that you'll be able to use your money in unappropriated for some of the things that we're planning for this budget year. Once we close and see that the unappropriated ends up real high, that we allow ourselves to take some money from the appropriated over into our operating budget to get through this year, to do the things that we want to do, and not have them sitting in a reserve that's restricted by your policies. So we will discuss that further, but I do want to point out how our unappropriated, and you can't touch unappropriated without declaring an emergency and going to the state. So, but you're appropriated. But we would just need to address our policy. So I just want to make you all aware of that.
And what led to that significant increase in the unappropriated? Do we know?
I think it was just in final calculations of balances within the budget that weren't spent. As I mentioned, we generally have a 5% savings in our personnel costs due to vacancies, attrition, things of that nature that happen within HR. And then, of course, reimbursements. As reimbursements are coming in and as expenses are being determined to be eligible for reimbursement, when they come in, it adds to that balance, but that doesn't happen until the year closes. So at this point, the balance that he's given us based on what we know is 98 million. But using the variance percentages that we've discussed from prior years, from budgeted reserves to actuals, revenue numbers from budgeted to actuals, that's where the budget estimate comes in. So if we factor in those variables, we're sitting at 8.5%. But as a reminder, we can't budget more than what the auditor certifies in revenue. And so as Betsy mentioned, there are some items that we know that the court would like us to move forward with, and we may have to wait until that final fund balance number does come in order to determine that we've left that cautious area and moved into kind of our more normal range of that 8%.
And that increase that we saw in 23 from the 6.08 to the 11.55, was that higher than we normally see? I know we're only looking at 23, but like for 22, for 21, is that about average? Is that about normal?
I think about this time last year, we were looking at the 6% coming in about 8.5. So that 11.55% was higher than what we anticipated, even from the budget projection side. And I don't want to speak for Mr. Dion. I know he'll be doing his update next week, and I think the following week on the revenues. And he can probably give you more insight into what those changes were. But it's probably going to be mainly unspent budget balances and the salary savings. Are there any other questions on this chart? Some of the main factors driving next year's budget are carryovers from FY23 and proposed FY24 impacts, which include wage adjustments, positions, and benefits in addition to contractual increases based on CPI. So as was mentioned during the HR presentation, our budget numbers do include estimated numbers for new positions, estimated numbers for transitioning grant-funded personnel into the general fund. It includes the potential for a 4% cost of living increase. That's going to be determined during the budget hearings, but it includes a lot of things that we anticipate that the court will want to move forward with. And so that's what's in our 24 impacts. So some of the other items that we carry over from year to year are always those wage increases. And we see the initial impact in one year, but then that increases the budget for the following year. Different contracts, such as the jail medical contract, the mental health contract, are still being, I think, negotiated. Betsy, are we still negotiating those contracts? We're still negotiating those contracts. And of course, our collective bargaining agreement negotiations as they proceed. One of the items that's in here that we don't normally see is the juror pay increase. And that we did increase based on new legislation that was passed this year. So that's a kind of a new impact to our budget. The court had originally set a goal to increase juror pay kind of on our own. However, the state law has now mandated it, and it is higher than what we had anticipated to increase kind of on our own this year.
How much more? Because we were gradually creeping up there.
We were creeping up there. I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I don't remember them off the top of my head, but in talking with the auditor, the difference between what we're being reimbursed and what we're getting right now, I think was from 8 to 14. And then on the juror pay side, I think it jumped up to $20. I think we're at 8. But I can bring those numbers
$20 for the first day and $45 for the second, and Alicia's going to cover that in her presentation today.
We'll leave that to Alicia. Sales tax receipts continue to grow as indicated in the table at the bottom of this slide, and we're recommending to continue the allocation the county makes to the Economic Impact Fund in direct proportion to the growth in sales tax receipts. The goal remains to grow this fund to a sustainable $10 million annual appropriation. During this fiscal year, we're actually just under. I think we're about 9.8. This year's budget for the Economic Impact Fund is just over 9.4. The intent of this funding is to continue our investments in infrastructure, workforce development, and projects that are anticipated to grow our property values and create jobs, new jobs to the benefit of our local economy. In Texas, almost half of the counties impose a county sales and use tax for property tax relief. The county tax is collected in addition to state tax and any other local taxes as applicable. And as a reminder, sales tax revenue reduces local property taxes by over 12 cents or 21% of our M&O rate. The reminder on this is that while it's good to see our sales tax grow, we don't always get to keep all of it. As projected by Mr. Dion, our sales tax did rebound in June, as I mentioned earlier, from the May negative into the single digits, and we are still showing an increase over last year. Although sales tax continues to grow, it is not at the same rate as the previous 2 years. This slide shows how El Paso County compares to the top counties and sales tax recipients through July 2023. El Paso is currently the second highest county year-to-date, just below Midland, and above other notable counties in the state, which is a change due to our slowing growth. At this time last year, El Paso had held the highest year-to-date sales tax in the state. Again, while the growth is nice to see, excess sales taxes are transferred from the general fund to debt service, which directly lowers the INS portion of the tax rate as required by statute and creates capacity for future debt opportunities. For FY23, that amount is currently estimated at $2.5 million and will be a contributing factor to future years' tax rate calculations. This will be one of those adjustments that's done after the year ends. Once we know what our excess sales tax is, they will pull that from any remaining balances from FY23 to transfer that 2.5 million out of. So it'll go up, it'll come down, it'll go up, it'll come down, depending as we close out. This next section will cover our CIP request. The annual call for CIP projects was opened on May 22nd and closed on June 9th. Based on our preliminary values, we expect to have $6 million available for new and replacement CIP projects and $6 million available for ongoing requests for a combined estimated total of $12 million. Annual CIP is 1 cent for new and replacement projects and 1 cent for ongoing based on taxable property valuations. This year, we received a total of 250 requests for funding, the equivalent of $101,720,476. 20% of those projects that were requested are not eligible. Eligible projects, per our policy, may include the renovation, repair, or expansion of county facilities, technological enhancements or replacements in hardware or software upgrades that are essential to our operations. Per the policy, requests must be below $500,000, and requests that exceed that amount are recommended for funding under a debt issuance. Eligible new projects and replacement requests totaled $15.6 million, again with CIP funds estimated at $6 million based on the last valuations. 74% of the requests were eligible for funding. However, we will only be able to fund 38% of the total dollar amount requested. In the ongoing requests category, we received $5,590,510 in request. This does not include the planned categories such as fleet replacement, space allocations, park improvements, and public safety equipment. These planned categories could potentially increase the need by another $6 million. It is difficult at this time to determine which request we will be able to fund until the Capital Planning and Development Office is complete with its analysis. They will be presenting their final recommendations in September, and that information will be provided to the court in advance. During our budget hearing, we will ask the court to approve the allocation of the funding and then the projects afterwards. The next portion of today's presentation will provide you with an overview of other agencies whose budgets are set by boards and whose budgets and/or requests are subsequently considered by the court. The JPD, Purchasing, and County Auditor are 3 county entities whose budgets are approved by boards and are presented on this slide. Each of their budgets will be approved by their respective boards if they have not been already. The JPD, but on the JPD portion of this slide, we do have an update. The department has a combined FY 2024 budget of $27,358,379. Of which $21,634,463 is requested from the County General Fund. This is an increase of 1.8 or 9.4% from the FY23 adopted. The difference of $5,723,916 will be appropriated through other sources of funding. This is pending the Juvenile Board's approval on August 2nd. The purchasing amount does not include the requested salary increases by the board that they had approved. These positions are included in the new positions being proposed by HR. All operational amounts approved by their board are included in the $2.348 million, with the exception of a few operational accounts such as equipment and maintenance and repair, as well as the utility accounts for vehicle, gas, electric, and water. The FY24 budget supports our purchasing agent's vision to improve efficiencies in the mailroom and print shop, and they have already approved their budget. The Council of Judges will be meeting to approve the county auditor's requested budget of $8.1 million on July 27th. On Monday, the Commissioners Court received presentations from Crime Stoppers and Project Arriba, the 2 external agencies the county supports with funding. Our 2024 budget levels are included here and are in the budget at the same level as FY23. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped that slide.
Doesn't want to stop there.
It doesn't want to stay there. This next section is going to cover our legal claims and cost. So this chart provides you a look over the past few years of the amount of legal claims that have been paid out of these two accounts for settlements and fees for settlements. At this point in time, for FY23, we're only showing expenses of $168,328, which you can see is pretty much lower than in previous years. This chart provides a list of outside counsel and expert witness costs paid over the last few years and the amount paid through June of the current year. We're recommending funding for FY24 remain at the same level as previous years due to the potential of several cases being resolved in FY24. This is a list of upcoming scheduled events and meetings related to the tax rate and budget adoption. Revenue estimate updates are still forthcoming, and we know that we will require the use of a large portion of our reserves to meet the growing needs of the county. As discussed, we will be receiving updated estimates of both revenue and fund balance from the auditor. We expect certified amounts by mid-August. Our team will work diligently on this review and immediate feedback to Mr. Dion as the final direction and action on the items on this list for inclusion in the proposed budget will be dependent on these final estimates. In closing, we will have to hold the line on significant future budgetary growth as it will be necessary to maintain and achieve our goal of alignment in the near future, along with our growing revenue base to simultaneously achieve reserve replenishment back to our target range of 10 to 15%. This is crucial as it will allow us to withstand any future fiscal challenges that may arise. At this time, I'd like to thank the county departments for their collaboration, county administration for their guidance, and members of the court for your leadership in building the FY 2024 budget. And as mentioned, our revenue and fund balance numbers will not be certified until August, and these numbers will continue to change between now and our budget hearings. You should expect to receive your budget books at the end of July, and they'll be based on our June numbers. That concludes the presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you.
Item number 5, approve and authorize the summer food service agreement between the Public Works, Parks and Recreation Department and Children's Kingdom to provide meals to children under the age of 18 or persons 19 and over who have a mental or physical disability. Children's Kingdom will solely operate the program at Ascarate Park through August 4, 2023. Contract number 2023-0548.
Good morning. Commissioners, Veronica Myers, Parks and Recreation Director, and I apologize for the lateness of this contract. They were providing meal services, Children's Kingdom at Ascarate Park, thinking it was a city park, and they service over 45 other agencies in the city, the YMCA, city parks, after-school programs, and summer programs. They are a nonprofit organization, and this is similar to the agreement that we have with Anthony ISD at Gallegos Park, and we would like to continue their service until August 4th at Ascarate Park, serving meals Monday through Friday from 12:30 to 1:30 p.m.
So, I just wanted to make sure that I understand it. So they're getting started late, but they had been someplace else before. Where were they?
No, they were at Ascarate Park. They were
at
serving
Ascarate
meals.
All this time?
Yes.
Right, they just thought they were in a city park.
Okay.
They thought they were in a city park when they were doing it, and they thought it was already covered under their city contract when they were giving these meals out at our park.
Right, so we just wanted to make it right, and we processed the contract, and I apologize, but I was out and missed the previous council meeting.
Okay.
I mean, commissioners meeting. So if we want to move it to consent on Monday, we can, or I'll leave that to the court.
Okay, the important thing in my mind is the kids receive their meals.
Correct. Thank you.
Can we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Commissioner Holguín?
Aye.
Commissioner Leon?
Aye.
Commissioner Stout?
Aye.
Commissioner Coronado?
Aye.
Judge Samaniego is absent. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6, discuss and provide direction on a letter of intent for a new project called Dino Dig for Ascarate Park. Opinion number 1852.
Good morning, Judge is not here, Commissioners. Veronica Myers again, Parks and Recreation Director. We're again wrapping up. We're at the final stages of our All Abilities Playground projects that we have with Moms on Board, and it has been a great experience working with them. And now they are requesting a new project, to work with us on a new project. We're excited about this, the possibilities, and at this point, we're only asking for permission and direction on a letter of intent. With that, I would like to introduce some of our guests, and I apologize. Ms. Moody could not be here with us today due to a family emergency, but with us is Veronica Ramos, and she's the president of the board for Moms on Board, and she will do the introduction. And then also with us is Deborah Blee, who's the architect working on this project. Ms. Ramos?
Hello again, my name is Veronica Ramos, and I am the president of Moms on Board. For the board, I'm so sorry that Miss Adrienne Moody couldn't be here today. Like Veronica said, she had an emergency with her kids, but I am very honored to be here to just talk to you and a little bit about our future project, hopefully, according to you guys. So thank you to the commissioners for having Moms on Board, better known as MOB, here today. We are super grateful for all that you do for the community. I know it's not easy being a public servant, but I want to personally thank you for always fighting the good fight for all of us. MOB is a nonprofit organization. It was established in 2018 with the mission of bringing more family-friendly amenities to El Paso. Since 2018, we've been a part of so many positive changes in our community, but our proudest achievement is, of course, working with you all to bring the county 3 amazing all-ability playgrounds to Gallegos, Reisinger, and Ascarate Parks. It's been a huge labor of love for MOB. We're so proud to see this dream become a reality, and we are so appreciative of the Commissioner's Court and the County Administrator for not only being wonderful partners throughout this entire process, but also for all the hard work and dedication to make sure that the playground survived the COVID storm. I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, and my 3-year-old absolutely loves dinosaurs. I could show you a dinosaur and he would be able to name it. And one of the reasons why we travel is to go and see places that might have anything to do with dinosaurs. We've gone to many dino digs in many places around Texas. Most of them are around the Austin area and the Dallas area. And my kids have so much fun and can spend hours and hours digging in the sand looking for fossils and several things like that. So since we are now wrapping up the final pieces of the All Abilities Playground, MOB thought it would be a great time to start discussing this idea with county. MOB's vision is to have this dino dig right next to the All Abilities Playground at Ascarate Park. So our first slide, I'm going to go ahead and give it back to Ms. Veronica Myers so she can go over the slides with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos. On this first slide, the Dino Dig at Escarate will be an outdoor paleontology exhibit built for permanent display at Escarate Park, and the project will be developed and built through collaborative efforts between the County of El Paso, MOB, Insights, Southwest University, and Designscapes. The exhibit will be designed to instruct visitors about paleontology through a hands-on educational experience and learning about El Paso's very own dinosaur fossils on Mount Cristo Rey. These are all the partners for the Dino Dig Dream Team. And there are some letters of support that MOB has received from Insights. They've had some amazing conversations with Insights and Southwest University, and I believe you all received the updated letter from Southwest University committing to funding and in-kind contributions to MOB. And there's the letters of support from Insights Executive Director Alicia and Southwest University Professor Eric Kappas. Also a letter of support from Vice President of Academics Jeremy Burciaga and Senior Associate Dean James Romas, detailing everything Southwest University intends to help with on this project. And in the new support letter, the Vice President and Associate Dean mentioned all the ways Southwest is excited to partner. It mentions how a Dino Dig will serve as an invaluable resource for schools and other education organizations. Southwest University is committed to actively support this project and is excited to give back to the community. And the next slide is the timeline, which MOB's goal is to launch this idea and start fundraising in October of this year. And their kickoff day would be the same day as the Paso del Norte Community Foundation's 8th annual El Paso Giving Day, which is Thursday, October 19. And that's a beautiful day of online giving. And since they have built a following of close to 12,000 family members, El Paso MOB thinks it's a great way to kick off this project. They're also planning on promoting it during the ribbon cutting that we have for the All Abilities Playground at Escarate Park later this calendar year, hopefully. And so the position, the conceptual, next we'll go over the conceptual idea that Designscapes has put together. The location would be on the east side of the All Abilities Playground, as you can see on the screen. And there will be a pathway connecting the new playground to the Dino Dig. There's plenty of parking on this site as well. Additionally, based on the conceptual of the master plan for Escarate Park, that is open space that could be used for a project like this. The concept is to highlight the 3 different dino eras and each time period within those eras and connect them with a paleo pathway educating families along the way. And here's some photos of the concept. The paleo pathway will have fun interactive activities as well, such as actual size dinosaur prints that can be compared to human feet, painted brides, plants that come from each era, and educational plaques throughout the paleo pathway. This would include signage for educational purposes. And in some of the research that I have done as well, we could have schools come out, and we can actually, with the partnership with Southwest University, is provide the educational component as well at different times for different groups. And each sand pit in each area will have fun for the whole family as well. And here's just some small examples of things we can bring to the pits. You switch the slide, Miguel? It's not working. Is that the last slide? Okay, thank you.
Last slide.
So that would conclude the presentation from Moms on Board for today, and they're just very thankful, and Ms. Moody's very thankful for this time and this consideration, as well as us here in the County and Parks and Recreation Department. And we're open for any questions you may have.
Thank you. I've got a question. Can you go back to the slide where where actually the location at the park is? Okay. Okay, so it's on the east side of the duck pond, or the small.
Yes, east side, north part of the little lake.
Okay. Is there any, I saw that on the list of things, this, I guess the schedule or the timeline, you plan on, I guess, talking about it during when we're doing the allabilities ribbon cutting, but are there any other plans on just kind of reaching out to folks in public, people that frequent the park, just so that they know that this is coming? I can think of a couple of people that that would want to be in the know, like Mr. Falk, for example, Chris Falk. Just to make sure that the park goers, the regulars, understand that this is something that we're going to be doing. I mean, it's the first time I see this, right? So I'm sure that and I have questions, right? So I'm sure that members of the public will have questions too. I don't have anything against moving forward with it. I'm fine with doing the letter of intent, but I think it's important to make sure that everybody is informed about what's going on.
Commissioner, one of the things that we can do, and part of why we brought this forward today, is to see what else the court may want to include in the letter of intent. One of the things that we could add is that, so the letter of intent is if you're willing, or if you're able to, it requires that they present a plan within 90 days to us. What would this project look like, and what would the process and timeline be, as well as gives them something to be able to go out to see if they could raise the funds for the project. It does not lock either of us in, but we wanted to see if there's anything else you want in the letter of intent. So one of the things that we could put into the draft letter of intent is that the county supports this as long as it includes a robust public input process.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. I think it's an exciting project. I think the more attractions we have at the park, the better. I'm always happy to partner with the mob. But I think we need to go through those processes first.
You're talking about Moms on Board.
That mob, yes. I wasn't alive when the other one existed, so.
So what you're planning is possibly a meeting or two with the public, invite the public for possible input?
We could do online surveying, we could do some public meetings, things of that nature. There's, different outreach methods in conjunction with MOB, because I think it's important that we both hear the feedback together.
Yeah, Right, and because, we engaged pretty heavily the public on our Parks Master Plan, and this wasn't one of the concepts that was included in that. And so I think it's important to, if we're going to be diverting or doing something different than kind of what we had showed them or talked to them or gotten feedback from them about, that they understand fully what we're trying to do.
And you might also include it on the billboard, on sign for.
Good idea. Can you come up to the mic, sorry, so it can be.
Sorry, this is all preliminary discussion. However, we did talk about maybe putting some info at the All Abilities Playground, letting them know, this is something that we would like to continue to do and build upon, and letting them, hopefully setting some information at the All Abilities Playground, letting them know about a future Dino dig. So that's one thing that we could possibly do, but definitely we could have a community, outreach and just see if we could do like Ms. Keller said, that we could do an online survey, especially with our mob and our group, and also with the people that frequent the park as well.
Judge, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Commissioner? I'm also in favor of this project. What we can do to, develop Ascarate Park and provide more opportunities there for our community to do that, I think that's excellent. As long as we get this incorporated into our master plan for Ascarate, I think this is a great idea, and, I thank you guys for working on these projects.
Thank you, Mr. Coronado. We truly appreciate all of your guys' help and support.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions?
We don't need a motion just to give direction to move forward with
Correct. Thank you, Anna Schumacher, County Attorney. We don't interpret this as being posted for action, so it would be reposted for another meeting. It's just for direction. Thank you.
So the direction is to amend the letter to include a robust public input process requirement.
Great. Thank you.
Collaboratively between the parties, yeah.
Thank you.
Item number 4, we do have a correction to read in from the County Attorney's Office. Approve and authorize the county judge to sign the first amended and restated interlocal and partnership agreement by and between the chief elected officials of the Borderplex Workforce Development Area and Workforce Solutions Borderplex, Inc. This will designate the WSB to be the administrative and fiscal entity for workforce development in the region, effective from the date of signature through December 31st, 2025. Contract number 2023-0563.
Betsy?
Commissioners, I don't know if anyone's online on behalf of the judge's office, but I wanted just to talk about what this item does. So this is actually backdated to February 3rd, 2023. It does say effective from the date of signature, but the one that I've seen that is signed by all the other surrounding counties that are part of Workforce Solutions, it's actually effective as of February 3rd. And this is basically an agreement amongst all of the region that Borderplex becomes the workforce development agency for our region and the fiscal agent for these funds and this responsibility for our region. I believe that this is brought forward to us every 2 years in the odd year for 2-year agreements. I think it's, I don't know if you all had a chance to see the agreement in the backup, but it's basically an interlocal amongst all between the city and the counties of Brewster, Culberson, El Paso, Hudspeth, Jeff Davis, and Presidio, recognizing them as this agency for our region.
And I'm assuming that the judge is very for it.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Erica Rosales-Negaglione is online in case you all have any questions regarding the agreement.
Commissioners? No? So I'll make the motion to approve and authorize.
Second.
Commissioner Olguin.
Aye.
Commissioner Leon.
Aye.
Commissioner Stout.
Aye.
Commissioner Coronado.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 7, discuss 88th Texas Legislative Session and first and second called sessions highlighting legislative gains and opportunities for the county in preparation for the following session.
Good morning.
Buenos dias, good morning, Commissioners. Alicia Tamayo, Governmental Affairs Manager. For the record, I know this is a long presentation, a little debrief about the 88th session and the second call session. I had given you a little overview when we were in the first call session last month, but now that we're over those two, and there was finally an agreement on the call of the special sessions, which was the property tax relief. Wanted to make sure that we brought this up. So if I could go to the next slide, please. And again, this is a big picture overview. I'm not going to go into all the details of all the bills that passed, but just highlighting a few of the ones that are great importance to the county, effective immediately, or coming up effectively soon. But in this slide, we just have a little comparison between the 88th and the 87th. There were more bills filed this time around, and also more of the bills vetoed. Last time I gave you an update, only 2 bills had been vetoed thus far, and then after the end of the veto period, which was about a month ago, June 18th, the governor ended up vetoing about 76 bills, most of them Senate bills, citing that the reason that he was vetoing some of them was that they were not as important as the school voucher legislation that he's prioritizing, or he was prioritizing. That is expected to come in a special session later in the fall, and I will keep you updated on that. But luckily, none of these 76 bills were our county priorities bills, so that's always a good thing. Next slide, please. As you might recall, there were about 20 items of our action agenda that made it into, that were filed into bills. The 6 of them that were sent to the governor were finally, if not signed, but also not vetoed. That means that they will be effective September 1st. So none of our bills were vetoed. And we tracked about 2,000 bills and registered position in about 200 of those bills. We had Commissioner Stout come and testify in some of them, so I'm counting all of those times. Also people from like Public Works and Planning and Development that came to testify. So in total, we registered a position on about 200 occasions throughout session. Next slide, please. These are the 6 bills that made it into law. So congratulations to everybody who worked really hard on all of them. Our lobby team, I want to really thank Claudia Russell and the Bresnans for helping with all of these bills and making sure that we saw them through the finish line. House Bill 784, I think I've gone through all of them, so I'm not gonna, I just wanted this slide for the record, but you know, things that are ultimately very good for the county. Next slide, please. Unless there's any questions, please feel free to stop me at any point if you want me to answer anything. I do want to highlight things on the budget. I think that we started the session with a surplus that everybody was very excited about, and translated into a 21% growth on the biennial budget for the 2024-2025 biennium. And again, the 32 billion surplus, the legislature left about 10 billion unspent, but there were modest increases to school districts, reimbursement for TJJD, the juvenile programs or local probation and diversion programs, and there were larger investments in behavioral health than we saw last session, including the 193 new inpatient psychiatric beds. Next slide, please. These are some of the budget items for El Paso specifically that passed. None of them were vetoed. Everything as part of the budget. So 50 million for the new 50-bed El Paso State Psychiatric Hospital. It's a big win for the community. 10 million for the Weiler Tramway. I know this is not the 15 million that were initially requested, but it's still something that will get a head start on the construction that is needed to get the tramway going on again. 4.1 million for the McGuffin Home State Historic Site. 1 million for MST therapy, multisystemic therapy. This is a collaboration between EHN and JPD. something that also we had last session. So I'm glad that they gave us again 1 million, so $500,000 for each year, and these MSD therapy services that are very effective. $250,000 for a law school feasibility study by UTEP. Not the law school that we wanted. I know that this has been an effort of the community from previous sessions, and I think it's good progress that at least now we're going to have a study. We ultimately want the law school approved, but if that's going to take baby steps, we'll take the small wins. And we're happy that this feasibility study will probably be beneficial for the community. We also got $250 million for UTEP, $168 million for the Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, $60 million for EPCC, or El Paso Community College. Another big win for the county and for the community is the $65 million for a cancer research center by a Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center. This is something that I know that Vice Chair Gonzalez she worked really hard on, being in appropriations, also Rep. Ortega, a new member of the appropriations committee. So I want to commend them for this win for the community. And then 28.8 for continued border health operations, also by the Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center. So these are the items for El Paso. Next slide, please. I want to highlight a couple of bills that have fiscal impact. The first one, House Bill 4085, that will shift the cost of the court filing fees to the county from private. Currently, when a person is committed for inpatient treatment, for private inpatient treatment services, these local providers are paying for the filing fees, which could be around $600. I don't know exact numbers. But now, because of this bill, that cost will be shifted to counties. So this is one of the bills that take effect immediately, that we opposed, and sadly that's something that we're going to see now. But then there's some good news. We have some bills like HB 2620, where now TCJ will be, they are required to pick up the state inmates within 45 days, but if they don't, we're codifying in statute that the state will now reimburse counties for the daily cost of confinement. Now, this doesn't include prescriptions or medications, or medical care, I'm sorry, but it's a big step. I think it's a big win that now at least we get like a housing cost reimbursement.
Elisa, this is Commissioner Stout. Sorry, just a real quick question on that one. Is there like some type of like flat rate that they're going to offer to like every county, or each county is going to be able to say, look, this is what it costs us, and that's what we're going to get? Do you know?
I think it's a flat rate, but I'm not sure what that is right now. I can get that to you and get back to the court on that.
Because if it's a flat rate, it could be that we're still going to be subsidizing the state, unfortunately. But I mean, you're right. It's a step in the right direction, but I just wanted to make that clarification.
Okay, I'll get back to you on the exact rate.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next slide, please. Another good bill, also known as the Crown Act.
I'm sorry, Elisa. It's the amount that it would have cost the department, which is the state, to confine. So whatever the state's daily rate is what they'll reimburse us.
Okay. Got it. Thank you, Betsy. Then the Crown Act, House Bill 567 by Rep. Bowers. Another effort that took several sessions to accomplish, but that it will finally go into effect September 1st, 2023. It touches our Human Resources Department, but I think in a good way, something we already do, but like, codifying to prevent discrimination on the basis of hair texture, protective, now we will have a protective hairstyle associated with race. So again, something that is a big win across the state. Next slide, please. I know we had a lot of questions, and initially we're still very concerned about House Bill 2127, just because it's like the big or super preemption bill, also called the Death Star bill. but basically a blanket preemption on the provisions of state law for counties and cities across multiple codes. So it touches labor code and many of them. And just saying that we cannot do anything that the state doesn't explicitly allows on state law. So it is mostly affecting cities. I know that as counties, we already abide by a lot of these government codes we already do what the state tells us that we can do, and we don't really have a big ordinance making authority, but it's still, it's a big question mark on to what extent it will be affecting us. The city of Houston already filed a big lawsuit on the grounds that it violates the state's constitution. Of course, we're not captured in that lawsuit, but I just wanted to make a court aware that that's litigation that's going on and will probably continue for next few years. But it does, I know a lot of people in the community were concerned about city ordinances that have been very progressive in some cities and that now will have to be rolled back. In our case, I think the biggest concern would have been the big environmental code that the voters defeated. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name right now. But it didn't pass anyway, so it will not be something that would be affected because of this law.
Yeah, it would have preempted the climate charter.
Climate charter, sorry,
at the city. I mean, so I testified on this bill, and the county attorney's office and other staff put together a list of things that would affect us, right? So for example, I don't know if you remember Commissioner Leon, a number of years ago, probably in like 2015, 2016, we added a policy that would keep the county from discriminating against LGBTQ people in our hiring practices. That would probably have to be done away with. Like anything like DEI, it's just, it's a really, really bad bill. And so Houston is doing this lawsuit, and I'm a member of an organization statewide called Local Progress Texas, and they they're working with a group of attorneys to file an amicus brief, and they're actually asking local elected officials to sign on individually. So if any of you are interested in putting your name on that amicus brief, let me know, and we'll send you the sign-on information. I also had a conversation yesterday with our county attorney's office to look at putting an item on the agenda for our next meeting to see if there's anything that we want to do as a commissioner's court as a whole, or just what our options are. So I just wanted to give you all that update too, but let me know if y'all want to sign on to the amicus brief individually, and then we can talk about it as a court later.
I'll be glad to sign on.
And Commissioner, just to even further expand, I mean, not just the ones like the LGBTQ groups, but any like or any kind of benefit that we extend to an employee that is not something that's identified in the state, which like this is something, partner. Like even like we've wanted to have a vacation leave policy, and this would definitely prevent us, a vacation leave donation policy. We used to have one, we had to pull it back, but we'd love to be able to re-implement that. And this would prevent us from even doing something like not controversial.
And it's gonna cost us a lot of staff time to have to ask all of our departments to comb through all of the policies that we have put in place that may, they're going to have to work with the county attorney's office to go through all that. It's just,
I will tell you, I'm worried. There's a policy that we have that helps us a lot with our development that we get. It's whenever someone asks for a variance, we ask for a give and a take to do some of the better development that we have out in our area. And that's an example of something I'd be worried about that I am worried about under these provisions.
Yeah, get me that form too. Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Yes,
Sorry.
definitely a lot of, no, good. Thank you for chiming in, Betsy, and all those comments. Definitely a lot of things that preempt good human resources practices, paid sick leave, of course, and a lot of, even though the legislature had acted upon that in the previous session, but now this is like a big blanket bill that, again, a lot of implications that still a lot of us don't know to what extent. But thank you, Commissioner. And let me know if I can help in whatever action the court takes at a later meeting on this one. Next slide, please. Now going into a little bit of the tax admin, debt management bills. I know there were a lot of certificates of obligation or revenue.
Can I stop you there? One more thing that I did want to mention that I was very disappointed with was I believe that our local Chamber of Commerce was in support of HB 2127. Just so you all know, and apart from because when I was there testifying, the author of the bill brought up the fact that the El Paso Chamber had called him directly and talked to him about how they were opposed or how they were in favor of that bill. So I want y'all to know that because in my opinion, this is also a voter suppression bill because it not only will preempt policies that we put in place as a court or that the city council put in place as a city council, but also any policies that were approved by referendum or by a public vote. So in my opinion, it's also a huge attack on voters' rights, and it's a huge voter suppression bill. And it's really disappointing to me that that our local chamber was calling the author in favor of this type of legislation. So just wanted to one important point that I wanted to bring up.
Yes, that's correct. I remember in his closing remarks, the bill author did mention the climate charter, and I think that was one of the main reasons that they were supporting the bill. But yeah, in any case, it is still a big question mark what's going to happen with the other areas. Thank you, Commissioner. So on the tax admin and debt management legislation, I know there were a lot of again, revenue, like limiting our revenue generating abilities. And ultimately, the ones that did pass, there was a lot of work that we did as urban counties to push back on those bad bills. But a couple of the ones that did pass and will be effective later this year and then in 2024 are HB 4082. Initially, there were a lot of major concerns because it would prohibit COs from being issued, but then it got a little bit watered down and limiting it to pay for certain athletic facilities on entertainment centers, so like a sports arena and things of that nature. So they defined like what public works would be on the bill. We're not as concerned as we were at the beginning, I believe, but so the harm is going to be limited. But yeah, it's something that definitely we need to keep in mind once it becomes effective. And then the second one is SB 1999 that changes the calculation of the unused increment tax rate. So a little follow-up to the 2019 SB 2 legislation. In part created to allow taxing units to bank on additional increment pennies that were levied for like 3 years. The unused increment tax rate was created to incentivize local entities to exercise like fiscal restraint when setting a tax rate, and then it would be providing a mechanism for units to again bank on this additional levy authority in exchange for setting lower tax rates. I mean, I'm not sure to what extent this affects El Paso County specifically, but something that will be effective January 1st of 2024 that we should keep in mind as part of our tax administration and debt management. Next slide, please. In going into Health and Human Services, HB 12, I know that was something that we adopted in our legislative value statements that this body is very supportive of, but extending the Medicaid coverage to up to 12 months after pregnancy. Last session, it got watered down to only 6 months, and then at the end of the day, the federal government said no and kind of vetoed that and said, if you don't pass the full 12 months, then we're gonna not let you do this. So again, the legislature came back this session and then they made it right. So now it's effective immediately. So it will cover postpartum mothers up to 12 months after pregnancy. Another bill, HB 2071, as a cleanup legislation for the multifamily residential developments owned by public facilities corporations, also effective immediately. If I could go to the next slide, please. I want to go a little bit into the justice system and courts. We had HB 6 that would designate the fentanyl-related poisoning on death certificates and allow individuals to be tried for murder if they distributed a substance that resulted in the death of a person who ingested the substance. I know this was a big priority for the government, and I know we would have liked to see more done in like the fentanyl area. We wanted to decriminalize the test strips that didn't ultimately pass. But this was a speaker priority, a governor priority, and something that now our MEs will have to consider when issuing these death certificates. HB 17 changes the statute to remove prosecuting attorneys from office. Again, we were concerned with this rogue prosecutors bills. But yeah, so both HB 17 and HB 19 will be effective later this year. HB 19 creates a whole new business card that has civil jurisdiction in cases where the amount of the controversy exceeds 10 million. So like a new business card that some of our local judges have concerns with. We don't know how this will affect their docket. And also very similar, SB 1045, it creates a 15th Court of Appeals, which will have statewide jurisdiction over cases that involve the state. And the governor will be appointing these Chief Justice, I think like the court. So yeah, this will change a little bit of our court system, how it works. And I don't know how our local judges, it will affect their caseloads, but something that we need to keep an eye out for and understanding how this will be affecting us locally. If I could go to the next slide, please.
I have a question about HB, what is it, 17?
The road?
Yeah. Is that where if the prosecuting attorney in the jurisdiction refuses to prosecute certain types of, if I remember right, is that correct, Alicia?
Yeah, yes. So for example, in some jurisdiction where they're not prioritizing the abortions after 6 weeks, yeah, some prosecutors that didn't want to do or prioritize those kinds of cases, they would be subject to removal from office.
Right. And does this apply to all prosecutions, including those with statewide jurisdiction, like the Attorney General's office?
Probably not.
Oh, that's a good question I don't know if any of our county attorneys know the answer or can jump in. If not, I can get back to you. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Eric Rosales,
I was just making a point.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Okay.
Thank you, Erica. I didn't want to say something wrong.
They don't want to restrict themselves, just everybody else.
Right.
All right.
Okay, moving on to SB 252 by Senator Alvarado. It amends the Occupations Code to require CCOL to issue licenses to lawful permanent residents if the person meets these requirements here on the slide. So allowing permanent residents to serve as jailers, even if it's on a not permanent basis, but temporarily, but it's still, I think, a huge win for our court system, for our justice system, and it will be effective September 1st, so coming up as well. Something to keep in mind, both for Sheriff's Department, Human Resources, and the like. Next slide, please. We also had the Omnibus Courts Bill by Senator Jeff Leach, House Bill 3474. It does a lot of things. It's a tradition per se, or like it is a usual practice for the chair of this committee to file like an omnibus courts bill every session. So he did that. Mr. Leach filed this bill, and it gives new courts to other jurisdictions. I don't think El Paso got any new one, but we do have. We are subject to a provision of this bill that is the increase of the juror pay. So it authorizes the first jury pay increase in Texas since 2005. So for the first day of jury service, the pay will increase from $6 to $20 per day, while pay for the subsequent days will go from $40 to $58. And then the state will begin reimbursing counties $14 per day for the first day of service, and then increase the existing reimbursement for the subsequent days from 34 to 52, and it will be effective September 1st of this year. This section of the bill. I know it's a big bill, but this section will be effective September 1st.
Alyssa, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is where I had a question earlier. Can you sort of recap that for what we're paying now and what we will go up to?
Sure. So the first day of service, we were already up to $8 a day the first day on our own, but it's now going to go up to $20 a day. But the thing is the state will reimburse us $14. So it'll actually be a budget savings if we had the same amount of jurors. We're actually expecting an increase, but it would be a little bit of a budget positive. The next one, when it's the subsequent days, it's going to go from $40 a day to $58 a day.
And we're at 45, I think.
I don't think, we're at 40.
40.
40?
But at the state reimbursement is going to go from 34 to 52. So that's still where we're paying $6 of the cost of subsequent days.
It's good news.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner, if I may, so the changes on the revenue side have already been incorporated into the estimate from the auditor as well.
Oh, okay. I was hoping that hadn't been added.
Okay, sorry, I was late with the good news of this session. So not everything was bad. Next slide, please. On law enforcement, I wanted to mention these 3 bills. There's a lot of them out there, and I also want to just let you all know that we're working on a rollout of the bills. So a massive spreadsheet with all the bills and when they become effective and what departments that they'll be affecting. So this is just like some highlight of some of them. So HB 471 allows for up to 1 year of extended pay leave for an officer that is injured in the line of duty or becomes ill in the line of duty, and extended light duty for up to a year after upon their return, and it is effective immediately. So again, something for our sheriff's office, law enforcement entities to keep in mind. It might create some staffing issues, but it does allow for some volunteer to step in while these officers are out. So, I mean, again, I don't know the extent of the effects of this legislation, but something that we need to consider. House Bill 718 eliminates the use of the dealer-issued temporary paper plates. So I know temporary license plates have created for many years massive counterfeit issues. Now the state will step in and require, require big effort from the state. That's why I think it's gonna be effective until 2025, July 1st, 2025. We don't know how this is gonna look like, but counties were told that it was gonna be an effort mostly led by the state, so we don't have to worry too much about it, but something that we need to keep in our radar. House Bill 3290.
I spoke to the tax assessor collector about this, and his main concern was the storage room for the plates that they're going to have to maintain. Yep. So that's something for us to keep in mind.
And a good point, Commissioner. Along those lines, that makes it that we should put on our agenda for the next legislative session to be able to address the state giving us more back of the fees that we charge. They don't give us, a great percentage of it. And that might be something that we can argue that this is going to cost an extra expense for us, and maybe they should give us more for that money back.
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah, right.
Well, at least now we can say that they're causing us more money related to this.
Yeah, just add that to the unfunded mandates costs.
Yeah. Then the last one on my side, House Bill 3297, it eliminates a mandatory vehicle safety inspections for most vehicles. Again, something that won't be effective until 2025, but that I think would have an impact on our air quality, and something that now we're going to have to be very mindful of moving forward.
I think it still requires the emissions inspection,
Yeah, it's just
Alicia.
like the safety, like the tires, the lights,
The
windshield
brake lights,
wipers.
right.
Yeah, those types of
Okay.
things.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, Betsy. Going a little bit into IT legislation, SB 271 requires the local governments and state agencies we have to report security breaches to DIR. I think that's something that we already do, but kind of codifies and wants to streamline or be more efficient about how we report the security breaches. And so, yeah, something that we were tracking and that will become effective this year. Then House Bill 9, it creates a broadband infrastructure fund. I know a lot of you were contacted by AT&T and local providers that were very supportive of this. It's actually a constitutional amendment. So if the voters approve this item in the November election, then we will then this bill will go into effect. And it gives about $5 billion for expansion of broadband. It will be administered by the Broadband Development Office within the Comptroller's Office. And I think an opportunity for our county to participate and to put out there our broadband mapping and try to work with the administration to hopefully get some of these dollars locally. The funds can also be used for the deployment of the next generation 911. Slide, please. As a little bit of transportation, natural resources. HB 14 is a bill that allows for third-party review of plats. And HB 3697, it changes the process for the approval of plats by narrowing down the requirements. It allows you all to delegate the approval authority to multiple officers or employees of the county. Again, a lot of questions. I know other counties had also questions on this, on the implementations of these bills, but we believe it creates some limitations on what counties can do, but it will require more in-depth determination of like our authority and what authority we still have. If I could go to the next slide, please. SB 28 and the constitutional amendment, SGR 75, it creates 3 new funds. It's the new Water Supply for Texas Fund, the Texas Water Fund, and the Statewide Water Public Awareness Account. Their intent is to create 7 million acre-feet of new water supplies by 2033. It provides low-interest loans to local governments and wholesale water suppliers. Again, something that the voters will have to approve. And I have on my last 3 slides, I have all the constitutional amendments that we will be voting on in November. So this would be one of them. But I think it's a good thing that the state at least is now acknowledging that water is a scarce supply and that we need to do something. So they're really putting money into water investments and infrastructure. So a good thing for Texans. Next slide, please. I just wanted to highlight a couple, or put it on a slide, because I know we had talked about the model subdivision rules and the 2 attacks that we saw on preventing colonias from further exacerbating in border counties. So we were able to defeat both of these, and I say we because we work really closely with like allies, with other border counties that didn't want these things to happen. So I just wanted to put a slide because I know there were a lot of questions on how they died and what happened, and also for us to keep an eye out next session, and, because these attacks will come back. But the first one, HB 4108, you all approved a letter that was sent to the members of all the committees, both in the House and the Senate, and also our state delegation, just letting them know how lifting the model subdivision rules would, again, exacerbate the spread of colonias along our county and border counties. I know this is something that is part of the Texas Association of Realtors. They have it on their website. It's part of their legislative agenda, and again, something that will come back. They have both the full repeal of the model subdivision rules applicable to land within 50 miles of an international border. This time it ran out of time on the general state calendar, and but again, just putting it out there that this attacks might continue to happen next session, and maybe we can be, or we will be more proactive, I should say, on working with other stakeholders and the bill authors to lift it out. And Chairman Guillen's office did follow up after the defeat of both of these bills and asked us to please come to the table with the stakeholders as they prepare for next session and what they're trying to do. So just putting it out there. Also, SB 2037, that would have taken away our ability to limit to no more than one dwelling on a lot, as the current model subdivision rules allow, and also our ability to regulate the septic tank minimum lot sizes. It was postponed after several points of order were called on the House floor. But yeah, something just, I know a lot of you have questions on these two bills and what happened throughout session. Next slide, please. We have there were a lot of elections bills. A lot of them were defeated or watered down. Some of them were at the 11th hour left only for Harris County, like the lifting of their elections administrator. That was something that was going to apply to most of the urban counties, but then it ended up just applying to Harris County. I don't think that's a win per se, because that means that they could always amplify and come back to the urban counties like us. But at least that's something that we don't have to worry about right now. A couple of bills that I wanted to highlight, and I don't know, Erica, I know you're the expert on election law, if you wanted to talk about them, or if you want me to go over them.
I'm happy to cover it, Alicia, and if I miss anything, please feel free to chime in. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Erica Rosales Magaglione, Assistant County Attorney. So two of the bills that Alicia and I wanted to highlight, the first one, HB 357, both of these are effective September 1st. HB 357 has to do with the Secretary of State's electronic tracking tool for vote-by-mail ballots, and also some new timing guidelines for runoff elections. But I wanted to highlight the tracking tool. If you remember the last election cycle, there were issues statewide with the mail ballots. Primarily, they were being rejected because of a new law at the time, SB 1, that had certain identification requirements. If a person wanted to vote by mail, they had to provide Social Security, partial Social Security number, a driver's license on their mail ballot, on the return envelope as well. But it had to match whatever they had originally registered with. And for some people, it could have been decades prior. If they received a rejection, Secretary of State was telling them, go online to our tracking tool to validate your information there. But even when you went onto the tracking tool, you had to put your registration address, which for some people, again, it may have been a long time since they registered to vote, since some of them, the tracking tool proved not to be super effective for folks. So now they've changed it so that if folks' mail ballot gets rejected, they can use the tracking tool, and they would only have to put in their date of birth and like the last four of their social versus that old address. And so hopefully that would address the issues that we had the last election cycle. That's HB 357. And then HB 1243, this is a big one. It would increase the criminal penalty for illegal voting. Currently, it's a Class A misdemeanor for illegal voting. It increases it to a second-degree felony, which could be 2 to 20 years in prison, an optional fine of up to $10,000. Unless a person is convicted of an attempt to illegally vote, they don't actually do it, but they attempt to do it, in which case they could receive, it could be a state jail felony, 180 days to 2 years in a state jail, an optional fine of up to $10,000. Those are the two bills we wanted to highlight for you.
Okay, so a good one and a bad one, but I'm not sure if there's any questions on these.
I have a question. Thank you, Commissioner. With respect to the bill on the illegal voting, did they change the definition of the illegal voting to include not complying with some of the requirements on the mail-in ballot or other requirements?
No, the examples that are included in the bill, no, I did not see that, Commissioner, are things like, well, the things voting or attempting to vote in an election where the person knows they're not eligible, voting more than once, pretending you're someone else, that sort of thing. So I did not see a change in the definition. And a change in the definition. I think you could still potentially, attempt to vote mail ballot, but it's not a change from what the language was previously.
I just didn't want to see them that, people are trying to vote and they're trying to say, okay, you didn't include this up, that's illegally trying to vote, and expand even more voter suppression by that way.
What were the changes to the timelines for runoff elections?
Yeah, it was, I have it up. So it previously, the runoff elections, it said had to be held not earlier than the 20th day or later than the 45th day after the final canvass of the main election. So now the language says that the Secretary of State would designate the day, but it has to be not earlier than the 30th day after the date of the main election. So it doesn't say final canvass anymore, and not later than the 45th day after the date of the main election. And it can't be a national or state holiday. And they have to have an early voting period that includes a national, it may not have an early voting period that includes a national or state holiday. That was the change.
So it's my understanding that it would have to be held on a Saturday and also and not on a national or state holiday, right, Erica?
Yes, and the timeline changed as well, and the canvassing language was taken out as well.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much. If there are no more questions on elections, we could go to the next slide. And I also have an expert on other bills from the county attorney's office, another very competent attorney that can cover I don't know if he's on already or not, but
I don't think so, Alicia. If the court's okay with it, we could always send in an update or bring back an update another time.
I'll cover it, and if Aaron wants to chime in later on, we can send an update to the court. But there was some anti-LGBTQ legislation. I know we testified against it. Commissioner Stott was also very active during session against these two bills. So SB 14 by Senator Campbell that prohibits doctors from providing gender-affirming care to children under 18. It was a big fight. These hearings went overnight, and they also cut testimony, so they became really contentious. And also, they brought in a lot of lawsuits, and so this has been litigated right now by parents of children that think that they should be the ones deciding for what's best for their children. So yeah, SB 14 narrows down the exceptions, including care for children with genetic disorders and those receiving care prior to June 1st, 2023, except they must wean off the prescription drugs over a period. Then no public money may be used to directly or indirectly help in gender-affirming care. No state health plan may cover such care, and it allows the Attorney General to enforce anything related to the physician prohibition. So, yeah, definitely the state meddling with gender-affirming care and any medications that that parents might use for also like mental health treatment, I want to say. Then SB 15 by Senator Middleton prohibits trans people from participating in college sports in their chosen gender. Various rules about the birth certificates as proof, and it provides injunctive relief. And there's injunctive relief available. So these are the biggest anti-LGBTQ bills that passed this session. We could go to the next slide. On all the protective orders of family violence, stalking and sexual assault, I will not go through them because I'm not the expert, but Aaron Setliff is, and I know he has talked about some of them before. He wanted to highlight on this slide the ones that became effective. I know as part of our legislative priorities, we worked on some like House Bill 698 that did not pass, but we wanted to focus on the ones that will be effective this year. But again, since he's not here, I will not attempt to cover them because I might not be able to answer all your questions. The next slide, please. There were 13 constitutional amendments that were passed during the regular session. I wanted to put all of them here for you all, for the public, but just wanted to touch on some of the most important ones. Okay, I'll just list them all. The HAR 2 by Bonin proposing a constitutional amendment that authorizes the 88th legislature the cost of living adjustment for certain retired teachers. I just want to mention that current teachers did not receive anything this session, but retired teachers can have this COLA if the voters approve it in November. So slight win for the teachers, I would say, at least for retired teachers. HJR 3 proposed a constitutional amendment relating to the Texas University Fund that would allow certain institutions to achieve national prominence as research universities. And yes? I'm sorry, I thought.
No,
you had a
no, you're
question.
okay. You're doing fine.
Okay, good.
You know, Commissioner, before you leave, well, that was, I just wanted to thank him and all the commissioners that went and testified down in Austin related to a lot of the, and I know Commissioner Stout had a lot to do with advocating for us in the county and our community, so I want to thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that he had left. Anyway, we can go through the next slide, please. I'm sorry. From this slide, I just want to highlight a bill by Senator Blanco that proposes a constitutional amendment to allow us in El Paso County, the conservation and reclamation districts, to issue bonds supported by ad valorem taxes to fund development and maintenance of parks and recreational facilities. So this is something specifically to El Paso County that I think would be good should the voters approve it. And the last slide, constitutional amendments, please. We talked a little bit about the water fund, and but that's it. I don't know if you have any questions. I know I've taken up a lot of your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, Alicia, maybe we can have a detailed deal about how the new laws that were passed restrict our certificates of obligation that we want to go on our capital improvement. Did anything of that affect our ability? I know there were some proposals on some of those legislation, and including like what public works are and all that.
4082 is the one that the past that I think would limit our ability in a way, but again, only for sports and entertainment venues, it's my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I will have a more detailed approach when we roll out all of our bills. Like I mentioned, we're working on like a master spreadsheet of all the bills because that's not my area of expertise, like certificates of obligation and any of that. But we can have, I can work with our advisors and see how these new laws will affect our abilities.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I know Aaron is here. If we want to go back to the protective orders, domestic violence slide, I heard that Aaron Sutliff might be here in person.
Yes.
If he's available, we can go back to that slide.
Excuse me, before you move off of that, I just wanted to let the commissioners know that our bond counsel and financial advisors are also providing us a review of any changes to the statute and how it will affect our ability to issue debt in the future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Please, yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, Aaron. Good to see
This is
you.
a new setup. I have to get used to this, to sit down. Hello, it's Aaron Sutliff. I'm the trial team chief of the Protective Order Unit in the County Attorney's Office. I'm not sure of the extent to which Alicia was able to go through the slides. Not at all, Commissioner Olguin?
She saved it for you.
Okay, great. So just take up a little bit more of your time to explain some of the changes. So regarding protective orders specifically, Representative Cook's bill HB 660 addressed the enforceability of temporary ex parte orders. They were enforceable previously, but this just reiterates that they are fully enforceable as well as any other protective order that exists. These are the more emergency kinds of protective orders. They have to reach a higher standard because typically the person is not there, the offender. It also talks about the need to put these kinds of orders into the police system. It's called TCIC and CIC. If I were smarter, I would know what the acronym stands for, but it's basically the national and state database that covers, that allows officers at the scene of a situation to appraise whether there's a protective order in existence. So the ex parte orders have to go in there. That's HB 660. HB 1432 is frankly the biggest change to protective orders to happen in a long time. So for family violence protective order, currently, the law is that we must show family violence happened in the past and is likely to happen in the future. And advocates for a long time have said, okay, well, that's a challenge to be able to prove something in the future, right? Prove it beyond a preponderance of the evidence. If you look at sexual assault protective orders, human trafficking protective orders, and stalking protective orders, none of those require this clairvoyance. So the change is that you will no longer have to show that family violence is likely to happen in the future. You only must show that family violence happened. Frankly, that'll be a challenge to figure out how that works, because maybe family violence happened many years ago, and someone has just now decided to ask for a protective order. So that'll be something for us to litigate and talk through based on the facts and circumstances. But the law, as it's changed now, no longer required to prove this sort of minority report kind of proof issue. Senate Bill 48 is by Zaffarini. This just requires that there are standardized forms. We have great forms in El Paso. We do a really good job with the actual forms that we use. They are enforceable across all jurisdictions. We're proud of them. Smaller jurisdictions, frankly, sometimes have challenges. And so I think that has been the advocacy point at the state level for several years to help us all get up to speed when it comes to the quality of the documents that we're producing for protective orders. We're going to be involved in this because we have firearms surrender protocols, we have other kinds of parts to our protective orders that we want to be able to use moving forward. So the Office of Court Administration will be working with a strategy group, including us, to help create these standardized forms. Related to family violence specifically, judges will have to be trained a little bit more on domestic violence, and that will be shepherded by the Texas Council on Family Violence. I used to work there. They are really great leaders in Austin that help think through what are the materials, what are the pieces that make a lot of sense for judge training, law enforcement, prosecutors, all that kind of thing. Related to stalking, I don't know, we're lawyers here, but several of us are lawyers. If you've ever looked at the stalking criminal statute, our protective orders are based on the criminal definitions in stalking, and it's a long statute. And so I say that to say that I think SB 1717 was an attempt to make it a little more simpler to prosecute and for us to get protective orders based on stalking, but it added circumstances similar. So for a stalking protective order now, you have to show that an ordinary reasonable person would have feared bodily injury to themselves, a family member, or destruction of property. This is adding circumstances similar. So an ordinary reasonable person in circumstances similar. So in other words, if you are an intimate partner relationship and you've broken up with them and you put yourself into that position, not just someone off the street that doesn't know the intimate partner at all. So that's an example. It also adds terrified and intimidated to the list of ways of defining harassment. And basically under our statute, serial harassment is a basis for getting a stalking protective order. Sexual assault. I don't know if y'all know much about the SOB fee. I'm not just cussing. It's a sexually oriented business fee that is required for all of those kinds of businesses to collect $5 to benefit sexual assault at the state level. The Texas Association Against Sexual Assault is our statewide advocacy agency that helps in that regard. They have been effective at changing it from 5 million to 10 million, and it's been a real game changer, this fee that they charge. They've had a great deal more. It's like from 50 million probably now it'll be around 100 million across the state that they're able to collect for sexual assault services, including in our neck of the woods. I know that the Center Against Sexual and Family Violence gets that funding locally. SB 806 by Paxton, it just increases the number, the kinds of information, the kind of information that sexual assault people experiencing sexual assault or even an outcry of it are supposed to get from law enforcement. It's a lot of words, but basically officers need to give them information about crime victims' rights, about the services that are available in the community, and they must do that at the very earliest interaction with them. And then I also note that they're required to The police are required to consult with the local SART, it's Sexual Assault Response Team. We have one, it's getting up and running here in El Paso, it's run by the center. I believe that we're signatories, but the county is involved in that work, and so it's a real game changer when it comes to the coordinated community response that we need to have when it's related to sexual assault. So that's the slide. Maybe there's one more slide, and you probably are more hungry than interested in hearing.
I think it was the slide before, the one on the LGBTQIA.
Okay, well, gosh, there's a lot to say there. So that SB 14 is a doctor-related bill that prohibits transgender or affirmative gender care for children in Texas. And so the prohibition relates to the doctors and their licenses. So they cannot provide that care. There are some exceptions. They had a grandfather clause that allows some continuing gender-affirming care for children, but they must be weaned off of it over time. And as you can see on the slide, no public money can be used to directly or indirectly help in this regard. Neither can a state health plan cover it. And it allows the AG to enforce this when it comes to the physician prohibition. So this doesn't create a criminal offense. It doesn't say anything about the parents or the child. It's to get at the physicians to keep them from providing the care. Ironically, I think advocates in the field would say that ironically someone from out of state that comes in state that receives this kind of care out of state would still be able to get their prescriptions filled and to actually take the medication under a doctor's supervision. If someone from out of state that came into state or in the hospital, for instance, they would also be able to get this kind of care within Texas, but people from within the state are not allowed to do it. I sense Commissioner Holguin, you have.
I did. I just wanted to, I know Elisa mentioned that she thought that some families had already filed suit against this particular bill, but I thought I had heard that also maybe Harris County had filed some kind of litigation, and I was just wondering if you knew or if we could track that. I know in the past, El Paso County has also joined in just different litigation across the state, and so I just thought maybe we could monitor that.
Commissioner, I don't think I'm telling secrets. We have an affirmative litigation attorney on staff, and I think he is appraising the best areas for further litigation. This may be on the list. My information is that yes, there is litigation pending from a few families in Austin. The Houston or Harris County litigation, I thought, was more related to HB 2127, which is the Death Star bill, which prohibits local communities from being more stringent in their requirements than the state is at. And I think that is a Harris County lawsuit. Either way, I can follow up with you with the actual petition. Look at us, and you can read it, both of them, if you like. You're probably wonky like that, right?
I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then that SB 15. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Aaron, and I thought that the state of Florida had gone to court, and there's some cases in Florida regarding the very, very similar statute, and that one of the federal courts had already made a ruling to temporarily halt
I think
the
it was actually like
enforcement.
Arkansas.
Was it
or
Arkansas?
something. Yeah, it's like a.
So my
southern
sense
state.
is that the statutes are enough different in Arkansas and Florida for them not to be able to be applicable, any prohibition or that kind of thing, to be applicable to our statute. It hasn't gone into effect yet, not till September, and so I think that's part of their lawsuit, the ones in Austin around SB 14, for injunctive relief before it happens. I don't think the court's granted it yet.
Okay.
So, and then SB 15 is the one that prohibits transgender athletes, and mostly applying to women, transgendered women, wanting to participate in the gender of their choosing in collegiate sports. This was already the law at the high school level. They have passed it and made it applicable to collegiate sports. I think advocates in the area would say, ironically, in other states, if college level athletes go to other states, we're not prohibiting any participation in that regard. So, in other words, transgender athletes may be participating from Texas in other places within the collegiate level, and so we really haven't gotten to the heart of that part of it. In the advocacy phase of SB 15, I think there was lots of testimony talking about, like, there are no collegiate athletes currently trying to participate in this manner, and so it was a solution in search of a problem. But I'll save further editorializing on that one. So yeah, those are the ones I think I was going to cover. You guys are nice to give me an extra time, a little late. Sorry, I was late. I apologize.
No, thank you for coming down.
Yeah, it's great to talk with you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. That was super insightful, and I'm glad you were able to make it. And again, I want to thank you and Erica for all your work during session and during the special sessions, for working with me in, and bill analysis and all the things that we had to do. I know it was a lot, and also my first session with the county, so I appreciate your patience, commissioners, and your guidance and your insights. All of that helps me become better, hopefully, for next session. And also, we'll be better prepared with our legislative agenda and with the items that we prioritize, focus on, testify on. I know each of you have individual areas that you care deeply about, so I want to make sure I become better about involving you all in the bills that matter to you, and how we can become better advocates together.
Thank you, Alicia. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you. I know Commissioner Stow had to leave, and Betsy, but I remain available always, email, phone, whatever, for your questions, and I'll follow up on the items that I missed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Can we power through one more?
Yes.
Sure.
All right, Munzer, you don't have to wait.
Okay. Item number 10, receive a presentation from the Public Works Department regarding the Planning and Development Infrastructure Development Division overview and updates.
We save the best for last.
You can sit, stand, and we haven't built any kneelers there, so.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, good afternoon, Commissioner. Munzer Asaraj, Public Works, Planning and Development Department. I'm joined here with Ms. Palacios behind me, and Mr. McElroy is in the office. So we're going to go ahead and go over, I guess, the best presentation for today. I'll go ahead and slide. So on the following few slides, it's, I guess, where the department, organization chart for the department. Planning and Development is under Public Works, being overseen by Ms. Palacios. Planning and Development is by Mr. McElroy. And Infrastructure Development is part of those 4 core divisions of the department. As it shows, Infrastructure Development, we oversee water, wastewater, and lately some stormwater projects. So I showed Infrastructure Development. The essential for this department is to work on water, wastewater, and stormwater projects, as they play a critical role for maintaining the public health, protecting the environment, and ensuring economic development. We will go ahead and, through the slides, we'll go ahead and go over those projects that we're working on. And as you know, these projects are not, I don't want to say they're easy, they're not hard, but they're very complex projects and involves a lot of stakeholders. So the major objective of the department is, or my role is, to provide program management for water, wastewater, and stormwater projects, as well as grant management. The role of the program management in these projects oversees and coordinates all aspects of the program, including planning, design, construction, and operation. This also including managing budget, schedule, resources, as well as compliance with state and federal regulation, as well as stakeholders' expectations. Effective grant management involves in identifying, applying for appropriate grants, and develop a strong application to ensure compliance, again, with the state and federal guidelines. Don't be shocked from the next slide, please. These are the active projects we have for the department. As you can see, there are almost 20, I lost count, I believe there are 26 active projects right now of a total of $99 million. They're a combination of water, wastewater, stormwater. You want me to go back? So precinct 1, we'll go ahead and broke them down by precinct. Precinct 1, Commissioner or Chief Carlos Leon. You have 106 out of 330 colonias. And these are the active projects you have in your precinct right now. Hillcrest Center, Hillcrest Estates. Turf Road is coming for first time wastewater. And we just completed the Waco Tanks study, water study. Commissioner Stout, there are only 2 colonias in his, but they are in the city of El Paso, so there's no active projects in his areas right now. And this is the largest area with the biggest number of colonias, I believe, 188 colonias out of 330 in Commissioner Holguin's. And these are the active projects. El Conquistador and Lourdes is a closed project, but it's still there because we're still pending the state final closing documents from there. Commissioner Coronado, we show you have 30 out of 330 colonias, and these are the ongoing projects you have in your area, in your precinct. As you see, some of them are part of the appropriation from the Congress, and the others are from the ARPA projects and recently awarded 2 weeks ago the Texas Water Development Board Stormwater Project. Now we go first time water. Access to clean water, safe water is a basic human right. However, many communities around El Paso County still lack that. To address this issue, Commissioners Court's part of their strategic plan is to invest in infrastructure improvement. We have 5 active water projects, total $9 million, that will benefit 488 homes or 1,442 people. Wastewater, the same thing, is critical to protect the public health and the environment. Proper treatment of wastewater ensures the harmful pollutants removed before they enter our waterways. We currently managing 13 first-time wastewater projects with an estimated cost or total $41 million. That is roughly going to assist 1,404 homes or 4,491 people. However, many communities in the colonia still lack the infrastructure of wastewater treatment due to the aging infrastructure like septic tanks in a lot of these colonia that might lead to a nuisance such as sewage backup and overflow. Stormwater, this is one of the recent funds we've been receiving, or we received. Stormwater, again, is an infrastructure, is important to them mitigating the effects of stormwater runoff. Proper management of stormwater can help prevent flooding and protect the water quality. Again, a lot of communities are still lack that infrastructure. Staff applied 2 years ago. Staff applied and received $44 million, a combination of grant and loan from Texas Water Development Board, to assist those four areas through the flood infrastructure fund from Texas Water Development Board. We just an update on that infrastructure fund from the Texas Water. There's an item on Texas Water Development Board next week on the 25th. I believe it's item 8. The Upper Rio Grande Regional Floodplain Planning Group, in each out of those 15 regions, put together the list of priorities for projects. So we're fortunate to have El Paso County as us, the county. We have 5 projects listed on that, of I believe total of almost $100 million. And the city of El Paso have 11, and I guess San Lazario have 1, and Presidio have 1, and some it's on there. Those are the list of projects. Well, this is the first step. The next step will be for the staff, Texas Water Development Board, to start evaluating those projects and rank them based on the priority. And hopefully by the end of this year or early next year, we'll find out if any of our projects will make on top of the list for the next 5 years, for funding for the next 5 years. And this is very good news for the community. In conclusion, the infrastructure development, like mentioned before, we oversee almost $99 million total combined between project or 26 active projects, of which, like I said, water, 488 homes for first-time water, and 1,816 homes for wastewater, and those 4 large areas of the stormwater projects. These are the funding source for all those projects, like $47 million from Texas Water. The American Rescue Plan Act, thanks to the court, they allocated $34 million to assist those 12 projects for first-time water and wastewater. And the other funding agencies, USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and TDA, Texas Department of Agriculture. And not to forget to mention the Dig Deep. They gave us $5 million last year, I believe, to assist for any shortfall of any of those projects we have. And some of that money from Dig Deep will go to first-time wastewater and for turf road. Some of the challenges we encounter is the delay and the cost overrun. As you're all aware, infrastructure project can be prone to delays and cost overruns, which can have significant financial implication. And also right now, in El Paso, there are a lot of projects happening, so a lot of contractors are hesitant to start bidding on any projects, because El Paso Water have a lot, Lower Valley have a lot of projects coming, and of course we're hoping to bid those 12 projects, which we have 2 actually right now out for bid through Lower Valley Water District. And this concludes my lovely presentation. And I'm available to answer any questions the court might have.
Thank you, Munzer. Thank you for that information. I know that some of the community funding requests that we received, I'm thinking specifically Congressman Gonzalez's office for water and wastewater projects in the Sandhills. Those required us to submit an actual application, I think, to the EPA. I know we were still, the last time we talked about it, we're still trying to figure out how to do that. Were we able to submit those applications, do you know?
Yes, Commissioner. We received $2.5 million for the design services for the Sandhills project. Right now, EPA or the Environmental Protection Agencies are evaluating our procurement for the consultant, and it's been a month now, and we should have an answer for that. Upon we receive an answer, we can submit the full application, because they want to make sure that we followed the correct procurement, which I believe we did.
Great, thank you.
Sir, I noticed on the list of funders that USDA is not listed there. Are they under the Agriculture Department? Or?
Yes,
Yeah,
under United States Department of Agriculture, they're there, sir, correct.
Okay, and I've got to thank you and Norma for, I know that I thank you when everybody's gone, so, but I've got, for all the involvement of our county, of your department, and so far, thinking back in Square Dance, I didn't realize so much engineering goes into even wastewater. It was, in my mind, I thought as long as it travels down, we're okay. But I just been very happy with your involvement and your relationships with all these funders that go over and above what they have to do, and they help us out, as you remember from Square Dance, that they did more than they had to do for us. So I think it goes a long way in your personality and others there that talked to them. They could have easily said, no, it's your problem. So, no, thanks for all the good work, and we're looking forward to working in the Waco Tanks area, in Commissioner Holguin's area, and Commissioner Coronado's area.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that comment.
Commissioner?
Yeah.
You know, I just want to know, I know that probably if I stand from my interpretation of some of the money that was allotted during this legislative session for water issues and grant opportunities and what our responsibilities are to make sure that we get those and prepare for them, I think, you know, y'all have done a great job. I just think as an organization, we need to kind of get a little more aggressive towards securing more funding and wherever it's available, and make sure that we're prepared and put that in, you know, even some partly into our capital plan that we need to do, because I think there's really a lot of a great need, a lot more than what we're able to obtain in grant funds. And so I think we, you know, but we thank you for the job y'all are doing. It's great.
My pleasure. Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for waiting that long.
If I can just say something before Munzer leaves. I want to recognize Munzer for all his amazing work. This really benefits our community. We went from handling 2 to 3 projects to 26 projects. So we aggressively seek out every opportunity that we get. This is really satisfying for us too, to see that we're able to help the community, you know. So just wanted to recognize Munzer.
No, thank you. Thank you for your involvement and your positive attitude, Norma.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Munzer. Thank you, Norma.
Okay, this concludes all the items on today's agenda, Commissioner Leon.
Okay, thank you. We're adjourned, but just in case you don't know, there is lunch provided, waiting for us, I think. So thank you all, and we'll see you later this week.
This concludes today's meeting at 12:41 p.m.